I was watching the Golden Globes the other night, and the host was like, talking about the movie Oppenheimer that Christopher Nolan just did about the nuclear bomb.
I love that movie.
And he was like, he was talking about how like he wished there was an intermission in there. It's like, dude, that's 3 hours of history.
Yeah, it's a great movie too.
Like, just take a second.
Right.
Yeah, take a second.
When people were like, "It's got so much dialogue," I'm like, "Yeah."
Yeah. What do you don't want dialogue?
What do you want them to do?
That's the point.
I thought they made it pretty like action packed for what it was. Like,
No, it was well paced. It was well paced.
Yeah,
I
didn't get that at all.
I haven't seen it yet.
It's
awesome.
amazing.
I watched it 3 times in one day.
What?
Damn. Oh, I remember you telling
That's
me you were
9
really
hours,
excited
bro.
about that.
Yeah.
My God.
Because we were filming a movie. I'll talk about it. But we
That's
were filming
crazy.
a movie and we just went and did it.
That's awesome.
I mean, that's like me with Lord of the Rings extended editions.
Yeah, those are good too.
I watch them. I watch them all in a row, dude. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
I've done it multiple times. The greatest films ever, in my opinion. But
Hit that intro,
it
son.
is fact.
Incredible writing.
Oh God, so good.
Characters. Orlando Bloom.
Orlando Bloom, dude. I think they got such a superstar list of actors, and not even like, I don't know, the people that they had play those parts were perfect for those parts.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Viggo, of course.
Yep.
You know what's cool about Viggo too? I'd read about. Because Aragorn to me is the ultimate archetype. When it comes to masculinity, he is the true definition of what masculinity is, like the perfect example. And there's actually a YouTube video I just found about that.
Like a dissertation.
Yeah,
a
it's like
student does that?
it brings up stoicism and just honor and all these things. And I'm like, yeah. So that's like when it comes to living up to a standard, right? I always like use Aragorn as that example. But Viggo Mortensen's also pagan, which is cool because, shares similar beliefs to me, I'd imagine. But I was like, man, it's a sign, dude. Maybe I'm going to be Aragorn. Anyways.
One day, after World War III.
After World War, yeah. God. Hopefully that just goes by real quick. I mean, it probably will. All right, guys. You ready to roll?
Yeah, man.
sir.
Loosen up, dude. We got a heavy packed podcast week, by the way.
Really?
We got you. Then we got this guy, James, tomorrow. And then this girl, Britt, flying in Thursday night to record with us Friday from Vegas. So
From Vegas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, dude. So it's going to be it's an action-packed week.
And then I'm leaving here that day to go do another one immediately after.
Yeah,
It's nonstop.
But this one's like better. I'm just kidding.
Relentless pursuit, man.
I know Danny watches this. This is why I say those things.
It's Jeff.
Oh,
But yeah.
I'll tell him too. Jeff Black.
Yeah.
I met with him yesterday.
You did?
Yeah, when I had lunch.
Yeah.
He was down here for something with this prosthetic, and I met with him, and yeah, he brought us some opportunities and stuff. Like, it was.
Yeah, I was
a
going to say
time.
the last couple times I've been with him, he's like, I'm going to get Joey in on this, that, or the other. Like, he's always talking about that with you.
Yeah, he's
so.
having this. Yeah, I don't know if I should talk about it, but. Anyway.
But yeah, hit your intro.
What is up, everybody? This is Joe Adams, and welcome to the Relentless Pursuit podcast. What this podcast does is bring individuals from all different backgrounds with all different journeys to share their story, their experience, and what they've been through. We cover crazy varieties of topics. We go down rabbit holes. We talk about mental health, a little bit of everything. So if that is for you, then continue watching this episode and every other episode that we've recorded and will have out, because we got thousands coming to you, okay? That being said, as always, we got my man Logan Hyder of Cinema 83 LLC in the house.
It is I.
What he does.
It is I. Hello.
And today, we have a very special guest, Mr. Jake Wray.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
What's
you.
up, Jake? What's
How
up,
you doing,
Jake?
brother?
Hey, man. Good to see you
You
again.
too. Yep.
So, a little backstory on Jake, on how I know Jake. I have a client named Shona. She's amazing. I've been working with her for a while now.
Yep.
And her best friend, Stacy,
My mother.
came to train with her one day. So it was Saturday, and I trained
Sorry,
her
my
both.
mom. She doesn't like when I call her mother.
Mother. No, but his mom came to train with me as well. And I guess, they had brought me up in conversation. I don't know exactly the conversation, but, Jake and I connected. And he's from Atlanta, but he drove up from Atlanta one day, and we just hung out and chatted for a while and got a lift in and stuff like that. And I was just like, dude, this kid's great. Great energy, great conversation, very intelligent. And we talked about doing a podcast. I know he wanted to do one closer, like right after that, but timeline didn't work out. But I think it's better because a lot has changed since then. So, Jake, take a moment to introduce yourself and tell us briefly what you got going on right now in your life, and then we'll take it back.
Yeah, cool. So my name is Jake Wray. I am a former collegiate football player turned filmmaker. So right now, by the hat, I own a production company called Mint Factory Productions with two close buddies named Harry Miller and Cooper O'Hearn. So right now we're in the post-production of our first short film called 18 to Water Street. Okay. I recently graduated from the University of Colorado, where I played collegiate football for the first 2 years of my career, and then it ended due to a back surgery, so I medically retire. But yeah, then my senior year, we just ended up starting this production company. So now we're just on the back end of that, hoping to start the release here soon and really kind of get into the end times of the production of this.
Nice, man. I'm curious before we, and we'll talk about it more. When is the release of your movie, your film? Or do you got an idea?
Isn't that the $1 million question?
So it's all dependent on what happens in the next few months with some film festivals. Recently, we've kind of changed our thought process on like if we're going to do film festivals or not. It depends. Because there's so many ways to do it. I think Martin Scorsese has a really great quote where he says, "If you want to be a filmmaker, do something different, change the industry, make the industry," which is, kind of part of our mantra, right? It's like if you can't join them, beat them. So. For a long time, we had the idea of, doing some of our own stuff. And then it kind of came to our attention of like, well, what is the loss of doing a film festival?
Yeah.
So like, there's so many great opportunities out there. And we'll talk about this, like taking that leap of faith, like taking that risk, like going to that next level. Like, is it really that much of a risk though? It's $80.
Yeah.
Right.
You submit, what if something happens?
What's the worst that could happen?
Yeah, you don't know what's going to happen. So, this year, 2024, the film will be out. Our trailer is out right now, but we're really in this end process of deadlines are tight. There's moments where you have to get into it. So what we're going for is the Tribeca Film Festival in June 6th through 9th, which is in New York.
I feel like I've heard of it.
It's a big film festival.
It's a bigger one. So Martin Scorsese, no, not Martin Scorsese. Sorry, I think Robert De Niro helped found it, and it's the biggest one in New York. Like I can kind of equate film festivals with my limited experience in the industry very, recently to like bowl games in college football.
Uh-huh.
So, you got the national championship, and like for a film festival, that could either be argued to be Cannes, which is in France, or Sundance, which is in Utah.
I was about to say Sundance. I was wondering where that was.
Yeah, so those are the big ones, right? Tribeca's up there though. Like if you can equate it to like a Power 5 conference, like it's a Power 5 film festival.
Okay.
So, long stop, you got to take your chance and throw it out there, and in each of these film festivals have different requirements to go into it. You can kind of like take your way out of it. So if you have a release on a platform pre-film festival, then it's not exclusive, so you can't make it in. So if you submit to them and they find out or they see that you already sent it out there on YouTube or whatever streaming platform,
then they won't accept it.
But some are non-exclusive. So some it doesn't really matter.
Okay.
So it's kind of like taking the idea of like, okay, if we're going to do a few of them, like let's do one that's really big and that's the exclusive one. Yeah. We were gonna do a release in March and kind of plan around that, and then I think now we're at the point where it's like this is the shot that we're going to take. And we're going to go to that. And if we don't get it, that's fine. We're still going to do our own thing. Like the plan doesn't change. The plan's the same. We're just adding a new goal to this.
That's a fact that, plans or the vision evolves. It changes along the way, right? You just keep going forward. But I posted about that yesterday, but it was like maintaining vision no matter what.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And you're just going to have to, take a little different side roads along the way. And that's okay.
Yeah. Totally fine.
All that shit just makes you better. If my hopes is that y'all go and get it, right?
Yeah, man.
Y'all knock it out of the park. But at the same time, if you don't, you keep going forward, and all that does is hone your skills and make you better and think outside the box in order to, knock it out of the park the next time. So
yeah. My brother got me this watch for my graduation gift. It's a simple watch, whatever, but he had engraved on it on the inside "Forever Forward," because that's just kind of been like a motto for me for a long time.
Bro, what's crazy? A lot of stuff I've written, I say that at the very end is "Forever Forward."
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
It's awesome, dude.
It's the only way.
Yeah.
That's awesome, dude. Well, hell yeah. I mean, I'm excited to hear more about your, movie stuff, because I've seen a lot of movies and I enjoy a lot. A lot of movies suck. But that being said, I don't know the ins and outs like you do. My extent with a camera and recording is the podcast. And Logan handles all that. That being said, Jake, what we want the audience to do though is get to know you a little bit, get a little bit more personal, learn about your journey, what you've been through, what led you to where you're at today. So if you don't mind, take us back, man. Where are you from? Where were you born and raised? Tell us about your path a little bit.
So my path is windy. I was born in Oregon in a small town called Klamath Falls. My family had a ranch there for a while. I lived there for only about 2 years, and I have an older brother, 2 years older than me. 2 kids, 2 sons, mom and dad. So born on that ranch, lived there for a little while. So I grew up with like a small town like mentality for a little bit. My family. And then we moved to Colorado when I was young. So we moved out there when I was 2. We lived in Fort Collins, which is a little bit north, and then my mom and my dad franchised a coffee shop from Oregon out there called the Human Bean. And
Human Bean?
Human Bean. Yeah.
I like it.
So, it was the first, at that time, it was the first coffee shop that was kind of like, they wanted to go mainstream because it had dual drive-throughs.
Okay.
So it was both sides, so it was like, Starbucks, you go on one side, like this one had 2. So it was 2 side registers, and then both cars go through, like increased traffic, increased revenue. Yeah. And then, so I was out there until the housing crisis in 2008, 2009.
Oh yeah.
The bank went down, so we filed Chapter 11, and at that time, me and my brother were young. We didn't really know what was going on. I was like 6 or 7 at that point. I was
2008, 2009.
Yeah,
When were you born?
I forget how young
I was born 2002. I'm young.
Oh, fuck me.
Yeah.
I was graduating high school when the housing crisis happened. I was going to college.
I was in high school.
I was eating McDonald's.
Damn, that's nuts,
Yeah,
dude.
me and my brother were just getting fat, and my parents were like, "What's going on?" So they sent us back during that time. They sent us back to our family ranch in Oregon. Stay with our grandfather for a little bit, and act like it was a vacation, and then they went down to here in Tennessee in Nashville, and my mom was religious. She was praying one day, and she heard the word Franklin, so she came down to Franklin, and she kind of like she found that point where they went down there and like, okay, this is where we have to move. Like, I don't know what's here for us, but this is where we have to move. Yeah. So they drove back out to Colorado. We all packed our stuff, drove down to Franklin, and then that's kind of where I really grew up. Like, that's the majority of my memories as a child. That we're talking about halfway through 2nd grade at that time.
Yeah.
So, got to Nashville. It was a rough time. It was a rough transition. We always grew up like, even in Colorado, we lived about an hour away from where we went to school.
Of course. And this draws the bridge between your mother and Shona.
Yeah. So this draws the bridge between my mother and Shona. And
an hour away from your school?
Yeah, it was like 45 minutes to an hour. Yeah, we went to.
That's pretty far away.
Yeah, it was a long time, but that was a good part in our life. Like, we had a little bit more money, and like, there's a few times my dad like would like, he had a pilot's license, so he like flew us to school once or twice when we were kids. It was cool, it was like one of those things, and then like off the deep end.
He flew you to school?
It kind of. Yeah.
That's still
it was fun.
You just see him skydiving to class.
Right.
Where's Jake? He's going to be late.
I know. But
so they moved, just to clarify, they moved to Nashville just kind of as a fresh start type thing?
Yeah. They didn't really know where else they were going to go. So, and that's, my mom, and my dad came down here, and then they found out that like, this is where we're supposed to be. I don't know why or what, but we'll see. And so we came down here, and like I was saying, me and my brother are an hour away from school in Colorado. So we weren't really used to like the fact, like, we had friends at school, but like me and my brother were best friends. Like, that was how it was. So like when we got down to Franklin, like at least we had that. At least we had that experience. We're like, me and my brother were like, we were always going to be close. We were always going to be, close buddies. But we had already moved at that point. Like when we lived in Colorado, we moved like 3 or 4 times there. And so, in those few years, then we got down to Franklin, and my dad worked at a Ford dealership because my grandfather owned a Ford dealership in Oregon for a long time. And so my dad, been a salesman and his whole life. So that happened. And then my dad got sick. He had a bleeding ulcer for a while. So he got put out of work for a long time. And at that point, my mom, she just grinded, like, shout out to my mom. Like, she went to work, and she just, like, we didn't know as kids, but like, we were playing football for a team called the Franklin Cowboys, like young, them
a few times.
Like young football. And,
I played for the Warriors. The Donaldson Hermitage Warriors.
Yeah. And
Little League.
So like we were, around the compound, like getting food, like in between practice. And it's like, scraping together coins to try and, buy us hot dogs, or like Snickers, the poor man's power bar, like, something like that.
You didn't even realize it.
No, we didn't know,
Yeah.
like that. And looking back on that, it's like, you just love your parents so much for what they do for you. Mm-hmm. And, that was a point in time in me and my brother's life where it was really just adjusting. Like it was like a steady flow, because we got down there and it was late to like the start of the season when it comes to like football. And so, my dad wanted to get us in football in Colorado. I at that time, I don't think you could play tackle football until about 5th grade, 6th grade, something like that. So I'm in 3rd or something like that. And we emailed like the head coach, Dave Nichols, and asked about it. He's like, "Oh, it's late." And my dad was like, "You sure? My son's this size." And he was like, "Oh yeah, no, come on. We'll figure it out."
He's a large kid.
Funny. Yeah, that's hilarious.
So I was
we
wearing...
don't got no 5th grade rules down here, boys. Smack them together. We're good to go. Let's go.
So I was wearing number 34 as an offensive lineman, because that was the only number that they had. And I was just a pudgy little dude, like pudgy big guy, I guess. And, just out there like flaring my body around. I had no idea what was going on. And then...
this is like 2nd, 3rd grade, you said?
This is 3rd grade.
Third grade.
Yeah, 3rd grade tackle football. And that's kind of where my, my connection with the Nichols family started, which is what brought me to meeting Shona and her son Ian.
Okay.
Through football. And so, going along in high school, and we went to high school, Franklin High School, and went to Grassland Middle School and all this sort of stuff. Actually, in 6th grade, I quit football just because I didn't like it at that time. Like I remember I joined a team. They were like the triple A.
Yeah.
Coach Abner was the head coach, and he was like, they were known like a stickler. Like we always went to like this championship in Knoxville where like all the teams in the regional would come. So you got teams from North Carolina, all this sort of stuff. This was like my first exposure to like how big football was in the South.
Yeah. It's a different ball game here. Literally.
When they say it means more.
Yeah. So I tried out for that team, and this is 5th grade. I tried for that team, and like the first practice, my dad was out there, and I was just losing it, man. Like in Coach Abner, I remember he was saying like, if you want to quit, there's a sideline, walk off right now. So I was like, all right. So I just walked off the field. I took off my helmet and I ran off.
You see the 6th grader just like,
deuces.
I'm done with this career.
And so my dad's like, like, what the hell are you doing? Like, go, yeah, And so Coach Abner comes over and he's like, I wasn't serious. Like I was kidding.
Yeah, come on, kid.
So, I decided to play that year out. We signed up for it. So I played the year out. And then after that, I was like, I'm going to take a year off football. I don't really want to play football again, playing basketball. Like, what was I doing? And then
was there a lot of pressure to play? Like, I mean, I guess
like from your dad or anything?
Yeah.
No, I mean, like internally, like I think the pressure was like to not give up, right? Because like that's how my parents raised me. So like at that point, we signed up for Franklin Cowboys, and so like my dad was like, "You gotta play. Like you made the team. Mm-hmm. So like why are you quitting just because someone told you to?" So like I think that was like my first memory of like an instilled like father-son lesson to me, where it was like you're not raised to quit. Like this isn't a moment. And it's 5th grade, but still like that stuck with me today. And so, I think from that point on, throughout football, like that was kind of the idea. Like, all right, I'm a football player. Yeah. Like, and so, but when I quit, it was like one of those things where it was like one of those times I just needed a break. Like it was so much for me to get through that season at that time. And, my brother was, a little bit bigger than me, like a little bit more athletic than me. I didn't know what was going on. He was older than me. So like, there's a little bit more like that. And then he got hurt like really bad. He had a microfractured knee surgery going into his freshman year of high school, which is really bad.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking,
like his kneecap?
His kneecap. Yeah. It was bad. And then, I just like, for some reason, like little brother, like I put on like a football jersey and I walked down. It's like, I'm coming out of retirement in dedication to my brother.
The crowd goes nuts.
6th grade. Like,
he like tripped and hit the sidewalk or something. He's like, I will avenge you.
Yeah. So, and then going into 7th and 8th grade,
now you're on the team. Now you're on the school team.
Now on the school team. Now on the middle school team.
Yeah. Which is different.
And so, the Grassland Generals, and then my brother, he got healed, and at that time, my brother was going into freshman year of high school, and the recruiting kind of started coming around. So my dad started talking about my brother, like, hey, like you can make a living off this. Like you can go to school, you can pay your way to school playing football. And so he got healthy and he gained weight, and all of a sudden, he's a little bit bigger. He's he at that going into freshman year, I think he was like 6'5", like 225, something like that.
That's a big boy.
Yeah, it's a big kid.
That's
at that age.
How much older than you is he?
He's a little over 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So he was born in February of 2000, and I was born in June of 2002. So, But, you know, at that time, like he'd played linebacker, played quarterback, but it was time to play offensive line. So my mom, you know, Southern cooking, like she just learned to cook. And so every night, like there's a thing called Dutch babies, which is like an egg, like a baked egg thing.
Yeah.
Like a big sheet. And then you like pour powdered sugar on it and like butter. And like, he would eat that every night and, you know, got up to like 265. And then it's like, okay, now I'm a bigger guy. For me, I never really struggled putting on weight. So going into my freshman year, I was around 6'4", like 295.
Good God. big old hoss right there.
Going into your freshman year?
I was bigger, dude.
God bless.
Did you
guys have a freshman team?
Yeah, there was a freshman team and a freshman and JV team.
Did you play on the freshman team?
I played on the varsity team my freshman year, and that was like one of the things with like our head coach at that time, Coach Webb, because my brother was starting getting some recruiting attention. Like people were starting to look at him, you know, bigger dude from Franklin, like tackle, like, you know, prototype guy, long guy, tall dude, you know, good kid, smart up top, and you know, I just wanted to play. And I remember Coach Webb, like, talking to me and my family, like, I don't know if we want, you know, Jake to play early. Like, he's young. Like, I don't want him to get hurt. I was like, no, I'm good. Like, let me play. Like, I'll play whatever. I just want to play ball. And so my freshman year, like, our first practice, I was practicing on varsity. I went on a defensive line. And I just remember stepping forward and just a crack. And my leg was completely straight behind me. It looked like I broke my knee. Like, my leg was completely straight, and I just broke my knee down. And I was like, well, not the best start.
Damn it. First practice?
Yeah. Like first or second practice of pads. And
so you said you stepped forward. What happened?
I was like a defensive lineman, like going and pushing the guard, or the center, and the guard like chopped
you. Oh,
and my leg was completely straight, so my knee like went down in, and like that was.
Why were they doing that in practice anyway?
I was an inside zone, man. You know, run ball.
Jesus.
You gotta do these things.
Those blocks are illegal now.
It is, you know, and so much in football has changed since when I was playing in high school, even like college. Yeah. So, you know, had that. I didn't need surgery, but I was on crutches for a little while. And while I was on crutches, I tore my wrist. So I tore something called the triangular fiber cartilage complex. It's like a circle or a triangle in your wrist that controls all the stabilization. I like fell and tore it, and you know, I didn't tell anybody about it at that time. I was like, I'm just going to get back to playing football. And so I finally got back from my knee injury, like, because that was summer, right? We started padded practice around the summer. And so I got back like mid-season, and I still wanted to keep playing. And so first practice back that I was cleared from my knee, we were doing inside, and I went to go block a linebacker, put my arm out. I felt like a weird thing on my shoulder. Turns out I tore my labrum.
What the fuck?
On that first practice back. And
what the hell is going on with you, dude?
I didn't tell anybody about that for a while. And
Jesus.
My brother knew, like, immediately, because he was like, what's wrong with you? And I told him. He was like, all right, like, we don't need to tell anybody.
I mean, you're not talking about, like, you stubbed your toe or pulled your hamstring. You're talking about major injuries.
Yeah, so I didn't tell you for a while. Played the season. And then had the surgery. And then got cleared from the surgery. Then found out I needed surgery on my wrist, so then I got those. So 2 surgeries coming out of freshman year, but I had JV film, luckily, because I played through like JV and a little bit of varsity. I played like second half of varsity. And at that time, at the end of the year, I think I was like 6'5", like 305 my freshman year. And
that's a big.
I started getting recruited. My brother was a big recruit at that time in Nashville. Like he was one of the first, like, you know, he was one of the first like dudes to kind of come out of Tennessee with some high like recruiting power. Because even in the South at that time, Tennessee wasn't like, you know, cream of the crop. Like you don't think like, oh, I'm gonna go get dudes from Tennessee. You're talking about like, I'm gonna go get dudes from Georgia. Or, like,
what's your brother's name?
His name's Max.
Max Wray.
Yeah, Max Wray. He went on to play football at Ohio State.
Nice.
But my freshman year, I went down to LSU for my first visit by myself. And I went down there, and I was close friends with, we were close friends through recruiting with my brother. We really liked the player personnel guy there, Austin Thomas. And I was on my first visit. Coach O was the coach there.
Go Dogger.
Yeah, I can't remember who they played, but Lyle Collins, who was a tackle from there, he played for the Cowboys for a while, was there.
Yeah. And
I took a picture with him pregame because I love Lyle Collins. And my dad saw that picture and started tweeting it around. Not tweeting around, started sending it around to coaches being like,
look how big he is.
Like, this kid's a freshman and he's the same size as an NFL offensive tackle. So I leave that LSU visit, and in the airport on the way back, I get offered by Ole Miss my freshman year.
What?
Yeah. So
because they saw that picture.
Yeah. That was like one of the. That was like a selling point.
You know what's crazy is, man. Like I think about it because I grew up in a lot of my life in Georgia, and I do remember how big it was. I remember even when we lived in Conroe, Texas, when I was a kid, like just little kid football. Like you'd go to these. It's like football tournaments, man. It had like this huge high school stadium, and there'd be like football game after football game, like multiple football games happening.
Yeah,
you don't see that shit
like
anywhere. Texas is nuts.
Yeah.
But even in Georgia, it was pretty big. You know, I went to Flower Branch High School outside, right by the Falcons training camp, and you know, a couple guys I would have graduated with out of that school, like you know, Georgia Tech, like some pretty big schools, right? And I moved to North Carolina to this small town, and there was like no one looking at those schools, man. Like I went and walked around like a Division III school at one point.
It's hard up there.
You know, yeah, it was.
Especially back then, like with no social media.
Oh yeah, exactly.
How about no huddle?
Yeah, something. I mean, Huddle was so big.
Huddle changed the whole fucking. Huddle is like a film watching software, but
it's like a social media film watching software.
But you can also make your own highlights and shit. So like at that point, guys could take control of their recruiting a little bit more and not have to rely on.
You like tag yourself, put a circle or like a star over.
Yeah, like there's junior editing you can do. Yeah.
And it's crazy how I want to say it's crazy how they emphasize size.
Yeah.
Like they looked at you and they're like, hey, let's offer this kid something. Yeah. But I mean, it's crazy thinking about that because I mean, I was a pretty big kid. I was like 6'2", 250, you know, in high school. I mean, I wasn't like that fucking big, but you know, it's crazy. Like they look at your size and they're like, we want them immediately. We can make them what we need to, you know what I'm saying?
Size in film, like freshman year is like crazy. Cause like, I don't know. I mean, there's some freshmen that like also like, played up there. But by the end of my freshman year, I remember coming back from practice after Ole Miss, and I didn't know what to do. I was like, "It's weird. Like I can go to college for free now." Like,
yeah,
and
it's already done.
Yeah, I was like so grateful, right? And the next week, I came out of practice, and I had a friend named Kenai Keldon at that time, and he was a linebacker for us, and he was playing. He was a year older than me. He played varsity, and he ran into the locker room. And we did like a little walk from our practice field. He ran to the locker room. He ran out and he like yells at me. He goes, because he always wanted to know when I got offered before I announced it, like insider or whatever. And so because my dad was always like, okay, like let's wait for the right day to announce it, like whatever. Because at that time, like the communication's weird. There's all these sort of regulations, so we had to stay within. And
you talking about just announcing that you had been offered?
Yeah, and like the Twitter or whatever, because you got to build your own brand and kind of like let people know, reporters or whatever at that time. So he runs in and he goes like, Mississippi State, huh? And I was like, what? I didn't know. Mississippi State offered me during practice at that time. And then weeks started rolling. And by the end of my freshman year, I think I had like 12 offers by the end of my freshman year.
It's insane.
And then going into, so the fall of my freshman year and then going into like the next year, sophomore year. Now I'm starting on varsity for sure. And because I played second half, and there was my brother was right tackle my freshman year on the varsity team, and there was left tackle was Caden Williams. He went and played at Army, I believe. So I went in the second half, when we were winning, because we went to the semifinals that year.
Yeah,
we were a pretty good team. We lost to Whitehaven in Memphis.
This episode is sponsored by Desert Rose Arts at Desert Rose Arts on Instagram. My friend Danny, she makes these one-of-a-kind handmade rune malas. There are 2 Elder Futhark runes of each Elder Futhark rune on 108 beads. They're handmade. There's different themes, there's different colors. She charges these things with a lot of intention and a lot of power. I wear mine every day, at least a couple of them. And there's some of my favorite pieces. If you want to support a small business with somebody that really is intentional about the work they do, check out at Desert Rose Arts on Instagram. And for a bonus, use code RP15 at checkout for a little discount. Thank you.
So you can find my Instagram at Wray, WRAY.Jake, and my company's mintfactory.productions on Instagram, and then Mint Factory Productions on YouTube, where you can check our trailer out right now.
Yes, Mr. Jake. So take us back to
Mr. Jake. So take us back to where you were right at.
So
damn it, Logan. Stab you.
We finished each other's sentences.
So at the end of my freshman year, going into my freshman, the season between my freshman and sophomore year, fast forward, at that time, like it was crazy. There was like a website that ranked like, because at that time there was 247 and Rivals. Those were the ones that was ranking, but they didn't do freshmen. Like they didn't do freshmen at that time. Really? So there was a website that did ranks by offers. So it was like best player in the country was by how many offers they had. Mm-hmm. I looked it up one time. I was number 1. Going into my sophomore year, I had over 20 offers. And the guys below that were Harrison Bailey and Eric Gilbert, which after my sophomore year, which I ended with like 35, I went and played football with Harrison Bailey and Eric Gilbert. So kind of full circle there. So I played through my sophomore year.
Harrison Bailey was a huge recruit, by the way.
Yeah.
Huge recruit.
My brother was left tackle. I was right tackle, so like that was our first time playing bookends with each other. It was just an awesome experience, right? Yeah. Like all my best friends on that team, like, and so, we went through that season, then he went to Ohio State. He played in the Army All-American game, and I kind of went down there, like hung out with some of like the recruits that I knew and some of those like dads, and like, cause at that time, like the football culture was like, in high school recruiting, like if you're a bigger high school recruit, like it's crazy how much attention there is.
Yeah.
Like looking back, it's weird to think about like how popularized I was at 16.
Yeah. Elaborate on that a little bit.
15.
People don't, I think, understand that whole process.
Like I think going into my sophomore year, like there would be people that would like know our last name and like know who we were. And like we would get like, I was getting interviewed my freshman year outside of the shoe in Ohio State with like 8 reporters around me, and like it's on YouTube. Like it's weird. It's very weird looking back. Like I was wearing a T-shirt that had 3 guys peeing in a urinal that said Texas Hold'em. Like I didn't have any right to be interviewed by 8 dudes at that time. Like what was I doing?
Do you think that it's? I'm just gonna speak from my own experience. Yeah. Now that I'm an adult, I think it's a little odd how much attention is paid to children.
It's like for me personally, and this is just from my point of view, my perspective. I'm not a big fan of like that type of attention, anyways. Especially if it's like it's a game. Like you're honored to go out there and play something. If you can make a living off that, you do that.
Dude, I can't walk out of this building without cameras flashing.
I know, dude.
I'm just like,
get away from me.
In the fucking, what is it, tabloids? Anyway,
No, I mean, like, so like at the end of the day, like I think, it depends on the guy. Like some people, some guys do like it. Some guys like, kind of yearn for it, but it's just football.
Like, do you think like the concept of like a 45-year-old man riding or dying on whether a 16-year-old commits to a school he didn't even go to?
I mean, that's weird. Yeah, like there's the rival boards. Like they sign up, they pay like a monthly fee to be able to post on these like recruit boards, and like they talk crap about people, and it's like, all right, like they
come after kids on Twitter and stuff. It's like, dude, get a fucking life, man.
It's a sad reality of the football world.
Because at the end of the day,
sports world in general,
you're just a fucking kid that wants to play football,
right?
Yeah.
Like, and I will say I think that was probably a beautiful part of like being in a small town. It was small town football, man. Like everything shut down. Like everybody came
just purity.
To, our high school for the football games. There was nothing like that going on, and we were just fucking
just pure.
And then it was like, okay, whose house are we going to go?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, you got that. Like we got that in Franklin. Franklin was a big stadium. I mean, we had like 5,000 people coming to games. It was cool. Like there was, like all the kids like around the field goal, trying to catch a field goal, whatever. Mm-hmm. But, it was crazy going into that year. And like, I thought that was crazy in Tennessee. And then when my brother went to Ohio State after the Army All-American game, at the Army All-American game, I was on the field talking to, the head coach of, sorry, not the head coach, but like a friend of mine named Aziz Ojulari and BJ Ojulari. Aziz plays for the Giants right now, and BJ plays for the Cardinals.
Aziz is a dog.
Yeah. And, my dad came over to me and was like, hey, you got to come meet this girl. And I'd never talked to a female before. I was just a football player. I was a football player and a mama's boy. Like that was it. Yeah. I just wanted to eat, play video games, and play football. That was it. And I was like, okay. So I went over there, and like my dad like introduced me to her and her wonderful family. And he was like, hey, like Jake, this is Anna Dracovic, and this is her family. And so I like shake their hand, whatever. And the first thing my dad says is to her mother, goes, could you imagine the kids that they would have one day? Like the first thing.
I don't know who that is. Anna, who is that?
That's my girlfriend. My girlfriend. This is where I met her, at the Army All-American game, because her brother was the quarterback for the same team my brother was on, Phil Dracovic.
Okay.
And so that night I was like, I didn't know what to say. I was weird. Like I didn't say a single thing. And then I like found her on Instagram, and I was like, hey, I met you earlier. Like whatever. So we went on the Riverwalk because it was in San Antonio. And then we, the next morning I woke up and like, I asked her dad for permission to keep talking to her. And, she lived in Pittsburgh. So I lived in the South, and like knowing not like long distance and all this sort of stuff.
In the Great North.
Yeah. So we started talking, and then we started dating. after my sophomore year, going into my junior year. And so her brother went and played football at Notre Dame. My brother went up to play football at Ohio State. And then I moved to Atlanta because I wanted to play better football.
Yeah.
I thought Nashville was good football, but Atlanta, I wanted more of a challenge. Like, I really wanted to go and, like, play some dudes. And that's what I got. I got down to Atlanta my junior year of high school, played for Marietta High School.
Okay.
With Harrison Bailey, Aziz.
Marietta's a big-time program.
Bijo Jalari. Like, Eric Gilbert at the time was a 5-star. Like, he was the biggest recruit out there, like, in a long time. We had a ton of dudes. And I got my ass beat my junior year of high school. I did. I mean, I went down there and got, like, destroyed.
You needed that challenge.
I needed that challenge. I mean, I was benched like halfway through my junior year. I was benched, and I came down there with like.
You probably thought that, like, you know, because in Tennessee, your mindset was like, I'm the shit.
Yeah, I'm the dude.
And you go down there and you're like, no, I'm shit.
Nothing. Like, we played Grayson when they were like top 5 in the country, and we were playing Owen Popo and like all these dudes, and like in that game I got benched, and for the rest of the year I didn't start.
So what was
humbled.
that? Yeah.
I was committed to Ohio State. I was Ohio State's #1 recruit at that time.
Whoa.
And I got benched. And like for me, that was so much for me. And this is kind of where like a journey started for me. Like going through the year, like I didn't like, and like there was like slander, and like people started talking stuff about me, and like, you know, like small media stuff, or like small, like around the town, like you could tell like the look was different. And like you go to football practice, like you're embarrassed to be at football practice.
Damn.
Like you're embarrassed to show your face because these college coaches are there now, and like they know what's up because you're not starting. Like you're not in the ones during practice. Like, why is this big kid that's committed to Ohio State not starting during practice?
I was about to say, was it worse because you already committed?
It was awful. I mean, like, I at least had like a little bit of security, like knowing like something like that. And like my brother was like playing at Ohio State at that time. But like at the end of the day, like, I mean, Ohio State at that time, that was Urban Meyer's like heyday, right? Like that was 2 years after they went to the Natty, when they beat Oregon. Like it was a big time for them. And the class of 2020 when I was in was known to be like the next big class. And so.
Were they communicating with you at all about you being benched?
Again, it was hard because there's so many regulations. So my junior year, like there's like a date, like a first or something, where they could text you and whatever. But it got weird towards the end of that time there. And like nothing against anybody. Like I don't ever want to come off on anybody. It was just a bad scenario. And then Urban Meyer retired, and I thought that was a good time to decommit. So I decommitted, and this was like kind of the downfall of like where at that time I thought this was like it. Because I was built up to like football was everything.
Yes. Yeah,
like
exactly.
it was absolutely everything.
Yeah.
So one night I found myself with a gun in my mouth, and I tried to pull the trigger as a junior in high school.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about this.
And I just thought everything was done. So I pulled the trigger, and it was loaded, everything. Like it was, and I was in my closet, and I just remember my eyes like forced to close, and like I turned, and I was like a water drop. It was the craziest thing. I was like a water droplet. And I didn't think like, oh, I died, or this is, you know, heaven, or whatever it was. I didn't know what was going on. I was just there, and I was like a water droplet, and I came down, and I hit the ground, and I like stood up, and I was a person. I walked through a waterfall, and it was just white, just full white. And I just saw a bench with a guy on it. I went and sat on that bench. I couldn't turn my head. I was just looking up forward. Hand went around my shoulder. And I saw my daughter in the future.
Good God, dude.
And I just kind of came out of that moment. And I was like, okay. Like for a long time in my life, I was struggling with belief. And it was like that moment for me, it was like, all right, like there's something here.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like a battle back for me. And I couldn't tell anybody about that for a while. It's like, what am I going to tweet? And then I'm a junior in high school. I just killed myself. I just tried to kill myself because I decommitted from Ohio State. I couldn't say that.
What happened when you pulled the trigger?
I don't know even how to explain it. Like it was back, and the bullet was chambered. Just nothing fired.
Oh, like you pulled it and it just didn't shoot.
Safety was off. Everything. It just didn't shoot.
What the fuck?
And
that's wild, man. And you had this basically this vision that was showing you that, hey, there's more to it than football.
It's not football, dude. Like you're meant to be a father one day.
That's a tiny glimpse of it all.
Yeah, like it's a small and like 30,000 foot view. And so I took a step back. I was like, well, what if I don't play football at all? And I remember I told my parents finally, and my parents got divorced during that time, so that was a hard time for me as well. It wasn't, you know, it was a hard divorce. My brother was off at college, and he was playing football at Ohio State. You know,
didn't have him there.
Too much. Like it was just so much on me, and it was just a lot on me, and I just couldn't carry that all. I wasn't I'm just a man. Like,
Just a kid.
You know,
You're just a kid.
You know, it's crazy to think about that too, man. And you were fortunate enough to have that moment.
Yeah.
And you know, you think about people dealing with shit, and they get to that time where like they pull the trigger or whatever, right? You know, you listen to Cassie; she's talked about like something like possessed her almost. I'm sure, you know, a little bit of different experience, obviously, but I think people. You talked about all your focus being on football. That's all you were. That's all you had in your mind, and you were like, it's all over. So what's the point? And so many people focus on that one thing, maybe that's like bringing them to that point. But in reality, dude, that is just whatever that's fucking with you right then is so small and insignificant compared to the grand scheme and the opportunity that's there. You know, because like you said, you were meant to be a father. And I can tell you from personal experience, fatherhood is the greatest gift you could ever receive. I will fucking say that till like over and over again for the rest of my life. And so it's beautiful to recognize that. And I'm blessed that you're able to share that with us. But for anybody out there, there's so much more to it than your situation you're facing right now.
Yeah. I mean, looking back right now, like I've talked about that moment like a few times, and like, you can ask all the questions, you know, whatever, but like at the end of the day, like there's so much forward. Like there's so much there. And like, I'm only 21 and I'm blessed to sit in this chair, talk about this moment. Like I've had a lot of shit happen to me in those years and coming up to, you know, where I am today, which I'll continue talking about. But like that moment for me was not a sad moment. It was not a traumatic moment. I don't use it as trauma. I don't talk about that as trauma. I talk about that as inspiration and motivation. That's a moment that kicks me in my ass and says, get up and keep going.
There's an opportunity.
I can't look back. What am I going to do? Look back on that moment and say, hey, like I'm going to feel bad for myself. No, because then I'm just falling back in that same pit I've been told to get out of.
Yeah.
So then my senior year, I was just like, I flipped the switch and I was like, all right, I'm in. Like, so I just started, you know, I told my parents about it. You know, it was hard for them to hear and whatnot. And
were you still with the girlfriend?
I was still with the girlfriend. I'm still with her today.
Okay. And how did she take that?
It was hard for her, you know, like that's, you know, when I was like 16.
Yeah.
You know, so it was like, that's a lot. Like, you know, people were worried about me. It's like, oh, it's fine. Like I'm going through this. Like, I think after that moment, like it was so clear that was behind me. It was so supernatural, like that was gone. And like, that's not there for me anymore. Like there's no chance of that ever, like that's not part of me. That was a part of my story, but that's the beautiful thing about a story is you keep writing it. And so I just decided to keep writing it. So,
I'm sorry, before we hop on to the next thing, I just want to unpack that just a little bit more. So we were talking earlier about the pressure. We were talking earlier about, you know, the grown men that pay attention to every move that you make and the rivals and 24/7 and all that kind of stuff. And then you were talking about there was so much on you, and obviously your brother was already at Ohio State, so I'm assuming that you're kind of like you're supposed to be next in line, and that there was that whole thing. But number one, first question would be, how much of all of that, like kind of, for lack of a better term, like unnecessary external pressure contributed to that? And then two, you know, your gratitude kind of that you have from that situation, the positive outlook that you have on it, how much of that has to go into the fact that like, it's kind of mind-blowing that the trigger didn't pull or that the gun didn't shoot. Like, do you just sit and think about, like, why did that gun not go off type thing?
Yeah,
so
I mean,
kind of a two-part.
That's a good question. Like, for the first one, like, yeah, like, I don't want to, like, I'm not going to put any blame on anybody like that. Like, in my opinion, that was just part of what I had to go through. Sure, you can talk about compounding interest of events. I grew up in a kind of a difficult situation moving, and like I had, you know, like some family issues and all this sort of stuff. Like divorce was you know, it was rough for me, like really rough. And then compiling that all into one moment, like that's what it was. Right. Like I don't think like it was it was a rivals board. It was recruiting. Right. I don't think I wasn't built for the football pressure. I wasn't built for life's pressure at that time.
Yeah.
And I didn't have like the fortitude to go ahead and think I'm more than just a football player. If I don't have Ohio State or if I don't have a football career, like who am I? Like that's where I was. Like,
that was your identity.
That's who I truly did think I was.
Yeah.
And that was a culmination of my life. Like that was a culmination of my life's thinking. I put everything into football. So I got football. Like everything to me was football. And so, you know, you're talking about you have like 4 weeks off in the summer, and the rest you're focused on like, how do I train? How do I get better? I'm working out with all these dudes, and everything that I'm doing is dedicated to football because I don't want my parents to pay for college. I want to go play in the NFL. Like, I want to go make money for myself so that I don't have to worry about that. Like, I can just do that by playing football, and I'm good at it. So I'm blessed. I'm going to go take opportunity in that. So it's a culmination of all that. And then that moment, like, that was a moment I like I said, I wasn't really like a big believer before that.
Yeah.
And like, that moment made me believe in God.
Yeah.
That moment made me believe that I was here and I was made. And so, like, that's why the bullet didn't go.
Right.
That's why the trigger didn't work, is because of that. And that is, to this day, my 100% belief. And I'm forever grateful for that, because I'm able to be here and talking today and sharing that story.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I think that you talk about this with the Olympic athletes, that thing that you watched a lot, but even on the level
Going
of
for Gold, I think is what is that documentary is called. I don't know if you've seen it.
But like, even on the high school football level, I talked about this whenever I came out of high school. I didn't play college. I wanted to, but long story short is that, especially whenever you get into these programs in the South and stuff that are really, really, really serious, like you said, 4 weeks off in the calendar year, like, it's blood, sweat, it's everything. Even if you're not,
like, the first period of school is weights.
The
like,
first period I was just telling somebody
Yeah.
this yesterday. For 4 years, my first class was football. And we would get there, practice 6:30 till 8:04, go to class, which was film and weights, go to actual class, come back to practice in the afternoon every day. Like, it was like, all encompassing, right? And so many athletes, and I experienced this, and I know friends have experienced it. Some of them are not with us anymore because of it. Like, they ask so much of you, and then a lot of times it's gone. Like, when it goes zeros on your last game, it's just over. Your whole life has been this.
Yeah.
All day, every day, all you do is think about football. How do I get bigger? Let's go train. Let's go run some routes. Let's go, practice. Well, that's your whole life. And then, boom, it's gone. And, like, people, I don't know if people's the right term, but, like, young athletes are not prepared for that moment when it's gone.
Yeah.
They're just not.
Well, that's why you, and we could talk more about this another time, but, like, as a parent, nothing against parents pushing that. I think they only have the best intentions. They want you to succeed and have opportunity, right? But, I'm glad I had my daughter at 33, because, like, for me, it's just, I know who I am, and I know what really is the most important. Like, RP is very important to me.
Sure.
But in the grand scheme, it's not that important. My family's, first and foremost, but teaching her to hone in and find her value in the things that are actually worth looking for value in, because if she does play a sport or something, she's going to be like, well, and it comes to an end, she's going to get to a point where she's like, I mean, there's a lot more to this life than that. So I'm good, like, I'm going to
always going to come to an end eventually.
Exactly.
Yeah, everything.
Every chapter closes. And so I want to, really teach her that, like, finding beauty in so many things other than that one thing she's focused on. Yeah. I want you, if you want to be the best at that, go for it. But, like, here's the reality. There's so much more to life than just that. And so, nothing against your parents or any other parents. I mean,
That's a great point, though.
I think that's just moving forward. You're going to have kids one day, and I think you're going to understand that without me even had said that. You're going to teach your daughter or son or whatever, those kinds of things. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, fully, like, and at that point, like, and that's like another thing to say, like, that divorce timing was hard, because, like, at that point, like, it was a polarizing, like, a moment in the family. So, like, I thought I was alone too, now, like, I'm living with my mom, like, my dad's living off to the side, and, like, I feel like I have to carry, like, this, like, young, like, I didn't, like, but I felt a responsibility towards my mother, my mom, and I felt a responsibility, like, I was, like, the only man, like, the only guy in the house, like, kid, but, like, I needed to step up a little bit. My brother was gone. My dad was like, it was so hard. Like, there was so much back and forth. When I told my parents, like, they both were like, we just love you. Like, you are like, if we ever told you that football was just you, like, that's not it.
Yeah.
Like, you are so much more than football. Like to this day, like the blessing that you were born. Like, don't ever forget that.
Yeah, there's a reality check for them too, I think.
And and they were such a big part of pushing me and to continue moving forward, and they always have been. And I wanted to quit football again, and they reminded me again, you don't have to quit football. You just have to quit thinking of football as everything. So I started focusing on every day. I started focusing on, like, that one workout in the morning. And so I got my body better. I got right. And going in my senior year of high school, like, this was a moment where I was like, all right, like, I'm going to get recruited. I'm going to go, play college football. I don't really care about going to a place like Ohio State. I don't really care about all this. So at that time, like you could reach out to coaches. So I reached out to the offensive line coach at the University of Colorado. I thought it'd be cool. I want to go somewhere small, do something big.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, like, do you want to offer me? Because I had Alabama and LSU and Auburn and all this sort of stuff. I didn't need to go there. And he was like, we didn't think you'd want to come there because you're like, you know, from the South. I'm like, oh, that's fine. Like, I'll go. So I went on a recruit visit and I committed and I was like, I'm done with this. Like, I'm just here to play football now. Like, I have a mission.
Yeah.
And that mission was to do everything I possibly could as a high school athlete. And so my senior year, we finished 7th in the country. We won the state championship in 7A Georgia. I think we had 9 guys go play college football. We had the Gatorade National Player of the Year. We got invited to the Geico Bowl in Las Vegas, which is held for state championships each year. So we went and played Eastside Catholic in the Geico Bowl out in Bishop Gorman in Las Vegas. We beat them. So that was a big moment for me. And then it was time for me to go into Colorado. And my senior year, at the end of my senior high school, I tore my labrum in the playoffs, quarterfinals. But like, it was like the same mentality. Like, it doesn't matter to me. Like, I'm here to win a championship.
Yeah.
I'm here to do everything I can, as this is my last year to make an impact. Like, I'm going to play every play I can until I can't play again, because this is what I love to do. I fell in love with football then. That was when I fell in love with football.
That's a crazy statement. That's a crazy statement. Like, after all of that, like, you weren't even in love with it before, really.
No. And then I love practice. I love moments. I broke almost all my fingers my senior year. I love that.
Yeah.
Like, I loved that.
Hell
I
yeah.
genuinely loved it.
You were more present.
Yeah. Every moment that hurt felt good because I felt that.
You were alive.
Yeah. And so then after all that, like, I went to the University of Colorado to play football with Mel Tucker.
You were just a year or two early for the big guy, eh?
Yeah. And then so I went out there. My mom moved me in. I had surgery on my shoulder 2 days after I moved in because I wanted to get to playing. I was ready. And then COVID hit. COVID hit in March.
Oh, fuck.
Sent us back. You know, so I went and lived with my brother at Ohio State, and we worked out as much as we can. And I had shoulder surgery, so I was still trying to prepare.
Yeah.
And at that time, like, I don't know what type of impact I can make, but I started sending every rep of every workout that I could to my strength coach, updating on my progress. Because I sent us almost personalized plans. And so I sent every rep of every exercise that I did for 2 months to my strength coach. Every single one, text.
Yeah.
Recorded every one of them. My brother and Josh Myers and Gavin Cupp and Luke Farrell, like, all those guys up there, you know, Luke and Josh are in the league right now. Like, and my brother, like shout out to them for helping me out with that. Cause like, that helped me dedicate myself more, like without those moments. And when we got back in June, they talked about that as a moment. Like, this is who we want the identity of the team to be. It's like, we didn't ask for this. He didn't have to do this. He's nobody. And right after that meeting, I went out and I was going to work out and I was squatting and I got to the bottom of my rep and my back gave out.
Yeah. This is a shitty situation.
So I just got back from shoulder surgery and my back just went out.
Dude, you're fucking injuries, bro.
I know.
Like, it's not even just that they're bad injuries. It's like the timing of them is incredible.
Yeah. So I remember, like, I couldn't stand very well, and I was like, oh, like, I don't know what's going on. Like, I pushed through some painful stuff before, but this is weird. Like, you're losing, like, central nervous system control. Like, so we got the MRI, and, you know, it was a disc herniation. You know, it's like, they're like, it's pretty common. Like, a lot of people get it. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, that's fine.
Are you able to elaborate on that a little more? Because, you know, you had told me kind of about the situation and.
You know, it's you know, just one of those things where, like, a lot of things get overlooked in the college football landscape. And I think when it comes to players, like, the ideology of a player needs to switch to a human being and a child mainly. Because all the stuff that I went through, I didn't tell them because they didn't need to know, because I was there to play football for them and make them money. And at that point in time, there was there's a little bit of, like, controversy where you can lay on one side and you can talk about, like, oh, this is someone else's fault or this is whatever. Like, I wasn't paid attention to. But there are moments where you have to admit, like, there is a change that needs to be made in college football and football in general.
Yeah.
As a landscape of, like, if someone's telling you, you need to trust them that they're telling you the truth. And, you know, ultimately, you know, decisions were made and it led to a point where I was left hurt, and it was a challenging time. I was frustrated and I was angry, and I was mad because I didn't take myself out when other people told me not to. Other people told me to keep going. even though they knew, and I didn't take myself out. I didn't stand up for myself and hold that accountability for myself, because I totally could have been like, I don't feel right. I've never felt this before. I need to stand up and get out, but I didn't.
Yeah. So, I mean, and it takes, at the end of the day, you're taking ownership of that. At the end of the day, you made the choice to keep going.
Yeah, 100%.
That's good.
That's all you can do, because it gives you the power.
Yeah, and looking back on it now, so I had that I had that injury, had surgery in November of my freshman year, COVID year, and pretty good year. Went to the Alamo Bowl and got out. Whatever.
Can I just ask you how that? I mean, I don't know if I'll ever have another chance. Yeah, I don't know if I'll ever have a chance to ask about this again.
Yeah.
How weird was that?
It was crazy. I mean, you're talking about like 5 a.m. wake ups to go get nasal swabbed every morning, and then you get a spit test. So you'd wake up, stay at a hotel. Spit test, nasal swab, go back home, sleep, spit test every day. If you test positive, you test positive. You have to wear a mask, you have to work out with masks. Awful, like gaiters and like all this.
Dude, I had to do boxing training with a mask for like a year and a half. It was fucking
and like rehab and then class was, online, and like that was hard for me. I wasn't a great learner. Like I was super dyslexic, like hard to read, like reading comprehension was like an all-time low, and like then there was stuff like I just cared about football again. Like I just cared about football. Like I didn't really love the idea of like institutional academia, just because that wasn't part of my passion. That's not what I was brought up in.
Yeah.
And so, football started going out, and then I had the back surgery in November, went to Alamo Bowl. I was like, all right, I'm dedicated. Like it's a 3-month recovery. It's a short recovery. It's a good recovery. I had surgery with a fantastic doctor in Denver who did Peyton Manning surgery on his neck. Like, great track record. I was confident. It was 3 days before my 3-month checkup. I was running the bleachers, and the head coach at the time, pulled me in his office. He was like, "You're going to start this year." And I was like, all right, like I'm in. The next day I woke up in bed and I couldn't move. I was paralyzed from the legs down. And
bless the fucking timing again.
I was living with a, best friend of mine now. His name is Brady Russell. He plays for the Seahawks, tight end. And, I was living in the laundry room at the time because that was the only place I could find a spot. And it was just, just a good time. Like you living with the boys in college, you didn't really care.
Yeah.
And so I'm like screaming, like, "Hi, Brady, like I can't move." And he's got a dog, Dixie. She was like, just a happy dog. She's like jumping around, like laughing. And I'm just sitting in my bed, like crying because I can't move my legs. So him and my roommates come help me out. We go to the facilities and, they look at it and they're like, "We're not sure what's going on." So we get another MRI. Then you go to the doctor and he's like, "Well, you have degenerative disc syndrome." Like it's hard to explain what happened, but your disc is like a pillow. And so it's collapsing and it's shaking and you're starting to lose it at a rate. So you have 2 options. You can either play football and be in a wheelchair by the time you're 45, or you can stop playing football and hopefully you can hold your kids one day. So I chose to not play football. So I retired.
Yeah.
And it got bad. Like I started gaining weight. I kept eating like an offensive lineman. I got to like 365, 370. Like, I mean, just gross.
Yeah, it all became soft.
Yeah.
I think it's smaller scale, but when I went from high school to college, I was I was a lineman as well. And then went to college and I just kept eating the same, but I wasn't working out or anything.
No.
And I was like, dude, this is like not good.
I mean, I got to like 365. Like I was just eating like an offensive lineman. I remember like looking at myself in the mirror one day. Like I think I like got drunk with the boys and I like had paper towel like on my back. And I was like, gross. I got to stop.
You sweaty back.
Just so gross, dude.
Yeah.
And I just like, I wasn't happy. I didn't feel good. My back was hurting so bad. Like it was so hard to walk. And like, it was just so difficult to do anything. Right. Like,
yeah.
I was in so much pain, and then like it was actually Shona that sent me like a keto podcast.
Shona's great. Yeah, she sends me podcasts too.
It was like a Savage AF podcast or whatever on like keto for athletes. And all right, so me and my mom did it. She did it with me, and it was good. I dropped like 30-ish pounds, whatever. Like I felt better. Like it was quick. Keto's fast. You drop weight fast. It's not. I wouldn't say it's extremely sustainable for me. And but I was doing like the bad keto. I was doing like the ugly keto. Like just like it was just no carbs, a ton of fat, like protein, like crazy calories. Like, and I wasn't able to work out still.
Yeah.
Because my back hurt so bad. So I was still just like eating and losing weight off that. You know, it's just, I might have been like 50% body fat. Like it was, there's a picture of me like smoking a cigar with my brother and Harry, my business partner, like in the mountains in Estes. I literally look like a marshmallow puff.
You can't see your eyes, like they're like rolling.
No, and like my arms are like out here because like my love handles and my back fat is so like it's, oh.
I'm Mr. Clump.
Yeah, I mean,
in The Office. Never mind.
Dude, like Uber Eats McDonald's for breakfast, like.
Hell yeah!
Thinking real coffee was like a frozen cappuccino in like the summer, and just like 30 grams of.
Can I get a frappuccino? All the whipped cream. I'm on a
diet. So yeah, I just started losing weight, and then like crazy thing happened that fall. I was sleeping. I was trying to go to sleep, and I don't know if it's sleep paralysis.
I gotta ask, did your girlfriend?
She stayed with me, dude.
Was she like, hey, honey, should you go get a workout in?
I've asked a lot. I've always been like, are you sure about that?
Like, she say? Was she like,
she's like, no, I've always loved you.
Wait, wow. You sure about what?
Because I was like 360 and like for a while, and I was like, I like look back at those pictures. I was like,
Are you sure you were?
I was like, I was like gross. Yeah. Like how?
And she's like, I just love you for you.
And then to this day, I always give her crap. I'm like, I know you didn't love me.
But thanks for being sweet.
But I love you.
By the way, where did she? When you were in Colorado, where did she go?
So she still went to college in Regis in Denver for like a little bit, and then she went online. We were only not long distance for 6 months in our relationship. We're still long distance today, so we'll be 6 years long distance at the end of this month.
That's fascinating.
So been together the whole time, and yeah, just a blessing in my life. You know, like she's just been, you know, the best person for me.
Yeah,
right?
She sounds pretty awesome, man.
You know, like, and she played sports. She was going to be an Olympic volleyball player, got hurt, medically retired, you know, bad surgery deals. So she could relate to me on so many levels. Mm-hmm. And like, that's what's so awesome with her. Like she grew up in a football family. It's so easy for me to relate to her.
Yeah.
And so easy for me to like love her and for her to love me. And like, she's such a great family and like, just such a great like culture over there that like really grounds me into like another aspect of like, you know, it's hard for me to be like it's hard for me to limit my like man side. Yeah. Like it's hard for me to like soften up, especially in long distance, because I don't get to like be with her, like, you know, be with like, you know, a female often. I'm usually like in my own realm. Like I'm very like on my own a lot.
Yeah.
And I have been for some time. That's how I prefer it, but it's difficult sometimes. So yeah, I just love you, Anna.
And it all stemmed from a conversation on like, you know, your breeding capabilities.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, to tie
go back to the size again. They're like, look at him. Yeah, you can date my daughter for sure.
Yeah,
let's go.
To tie it back. Yeah. They thought we were going to be like NFL generational family. Like, let's get the money.
Yeah, right. It's so funny, man.
Little did you know.
So I think you're probably going into this, but this may help or not. I don't know. But we were talking earlier about how difficult it is whenever you have football taken from you, right? And I think we were talking about that from earlier in your story, but this time it was literally taken away from you. So was that part of the reason why you struggled right after that, I'm assuming?
Well,
is that
part of it? I mean, like that was 11 years of my life.
Yeah.
Like, was it more difficult when it was done?
Sure. I got cried a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, because I had worked so hard to love something so much.
Bored.
And I got so bored. Like I had worked so hard to love something so much, and you train a competitive aspect of your life, and you take it away. You take away any moment to exercise your competitive nature, and you just fall apart.
You turn in on yourself.
You just stop thriving. You just stop working for something. You stop struggling, so you stop thriving.
Yeah. But then, you know, fast forward, you realize now you learn how to compete in so many other ways.
Right. And then
compete against yourself.
And that's like the coolest part about life is as it continues to move forward. Because after I retired, I was like, well, what am I going to do? Like, I got to do something. Mm-hmm. Like, I can't and so that's when I was like, you know, it was like a month of contemplation. Then I started losing weight, got on the keto. I was like, oh, I got to do something. So I reached out to the video department there. Like they have like a video producing department for students and like, you know, like any social media videos or like documentary type work, you know, I was a part of. So I reached out to them and I made some like stupid Rocky video as like a thing and showed it to, I thought it was the sweetest thing ever. And like whenever it got me like the student internship job and you know, I was blessed to be able to continue to keep my scholarships. I went to school for free and nice. Throughout that time. And,
how does that work when you retire, when you choose to stop?
So you sign a letter of intent, and in that letter of intent, it's, you know, they honor.
They just can't kick you to the curb if you're injured.
So where did the video stuff come? Like, where did that interest even come from?
I don't know, dude. I loved movies growing up as a kid. I hated reading. So like whenever there was like an essay or like a book essay, like I always try to like watch a YouTube video. Like, can I watch a video on this or like whatever? I just hated reading, and I love music. I love audio. So it was kind of like tying all that together. Like I found out something called synesthesia, which is like where your accidental like senses tie together. So some people like sniff colors, like you've probably seen that in like some animated movies. Like Limitless was a movie that did that, and then like some people like
I sniff glue.
Yeah, I'm just kidding. Some people associate like a letter with a color. Like so, I found out that like I associated sound with color, like music.
Interesting.
So it's an auditory. So my visual and auditory senses got tied together somehow, and synapses somehow, and I just remember thinking like, what am I going to do? I was like, oh, this is cool. Like this would be fun. Like it's a good time. Like I can just make cool videos and like have a fun time. Like during college, we'll see what comes out of it.
Yeah.
So I joined that team and I went to work and I met a guy named Cooper O'Hearn, who's now my current business partner. And at that time, like, you know, I think it's so funny in life when you have the shittiest circumstances that you think can be thrown your way, another door is always open.
Facts.
Always open. And for me, I had a brother waiting at the end of the door, and that was Cooper.
Yeah.
And we just, I mean, like immediately clicked. Like it was at every moment that it was like, let's do this. Like let's do all this cool stuff. And, you know, we're developing that. And like, our it was unlimited. Like the only thing that was limiting us was time.
Yeah.
Because we had school and like all this sort of stuff. So, you know, we had all the resources. The Colorado Video Department was great in resources, like all the cameras and all the equipment we wanted, software, like great mentors, like John Snelson and Jamie Guy and Paul Morissette and all them, like just great mentors and like teaching us. And so there's just so many options. And as we kept working together, you know, I'm out filming practice. So I'm still around the team and I'm, you know, filming workouts and making videos of that and doing documentaries, like doing some stuff, trying to, you know, inspire them and like filming games on the sidelines. And so I did that for the rest of my career. And Cooper and I were sitting on the sideline filming, I think it was, it might have been Oregon State overtime game. We were in the south end zone and we stood next to each other. I had a long lens, a 600 millimeter lens, and he had a short one, 330, I think. And we used to get like similar shots, and I was tighter. It was the same frame. I was tighter, he was wider. And we would cut that together in the edit, and we got a shot, and like, we were like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I was just like, that was mint. And I was like, because we at this time we had talked at that time we had talked about doing like making films one day. You always dream about doing stuff like that. Like it's cool. And I was like, that's something to keep in mind in the future. And that's kind of how we came up with our production company name today. Is we kind of just went down that road of like Mint Factory is like, you know, mint is, you know, different terms. Like you think of a mint as like a currency producer, right?
Yeah.
Like they're going to produce the same product every time that they put out a quarter. It's going to be a quarter, and it's going to be worth a quarter.
Yeah.
Like that's how it works. And then there's also like Mint's cool. So like a factory, like you're producing a consistent quality assured product that will continuously be made.
Yeah.
So like that was like the time that we like came up with the idea for the company.
And it's cool.
And it's cool.
Yeah, dude.
And
I dig it. I like the name.
Yeah. And so, you know, going through that year, and like he graduated, he went to New York City, and I stayed working there for another year. Yeah, I think another year. And then the head coach got fired, and then Deion Sanders came along, and I got the chance of working for him for the past year. So been a part of a lot of cool stuff there. And, you know, I actually, in the Coach Prime documentary season 2, they used a lot of our footage, a lot of our student footage. So
that's cool.
You know, I mean, the end credits there, which was cool to see my name on the screen for the first time. But, I mean, college for me was really just like another like kick in the ass of like, okay, like you went to school to do something that you dreamed about doing, which is playing football for a long time. Then you like had to give it up. Like you had to give it up. You didn't have another chance.
Yeah.
Then you went through a journey of losing weight. I lost 140 pounds in a year. And my back pain went away completely. I am now at the point where I can basically do whatever I want. Some mornings I wake up and I'm achy, like there's all this sort of stuff, but you got to push through, right? Like you got to keep going, or else, you know, if you want to keep moving, you got to keep moving.
It's the only way.
So, you know, so college for me was such a moment where I felt so stuck for a long time. After I retired, I liked working as a video for a while, but after a while I was like, I want to do more. Yeah. I want to do a lot more. So, you know, in my junior year, I couldn't go anywhere. Like, what was I going to give up an opportunity for a free degree? Like, I'm in the top percent. Who gets that? Like,
Yeah.
why wouldn't I take advantage of that? And my parents and my family, and I was like, what if I just go to trade school? Like, well, I don't need to do. Like, I don't want to be in school. Like, I don't want to be held to constraints. And they're like you constraints, and they're like, you have to go. You finish this. Like, we've talked about finishing this.
Yeah.
Like, just get the paper. So I did. I'm so grateful for that because like, it was such a teaching moment of patience for me, and like moments like time has to happen, right? Like whatever that time is. Because the only time that exists is now, and every second that ticks by belongs to death.
Yep.
So to enjoy that moment, and if I didn't learn that, I wouldn't feel comfortable going forward. Yeah. So college to me was really a confidence grower in sitting in a moment. So my senior year, which was last year in last January, I had this idea of writing a film. I didn't know if we were going to make it or not. Like it was just fun, right? And I wanted to do it on like a passion story. I'd listened to some talks like Christopher Nolan and these stuff, and they're like, dude, make your first film for you. Make every film for you, but make your first film for you. And so, I wanted to make a story on my suicide story. And but I was talking with Cooper about it, and like I didn't want it to be like exactly the same. Like it can't be. Like so, we changed the premise and all this sort of stuff, and we came up with the film that we have today. And so, January, February, March, we wrote the first script for our film, which is titled 18 to Water Street, which is cool. We found out the name when we were writing the film. We decided to do it in New York City. And we knew that we had one character who was going to struggle with suicide the whole time. And we were writing the film. We were like, oh, we got to find a cool title. Because cool titles are the best, man.
Yeah.
Cool titles are the best.
Bro, that's every clip that we make, I get just I love it. Whenever you get the right title on there,
It
you're
just
like,
works.
dude,
Yes.
fuck
just
yeah.
works.
Yeah.
And we were like, what's a cool street name? So we started looking around New York, and we were like, this is kind of how we developed like part of the plot, which is crazy. We were looking at New York, we're like, Water Street.
Water Street.
That's a cool name.
Yeah.
And then we found out there was another Water Street. So we were like, oh, that's like location. Like we can write around that location. So there's a Water Street in Manhattan, right in Fidei, which is financial district. And there's a Water Street across the East River in Brooklyn, underneath Dumbo, which is around the Brooklyn Bridge and the Manhattan Bridge. And we just like, gotta be a little bit more, like can't just be Water Street. Like so many people do like one phrase titles, like it's cool sometimes. Like, and I started going through numbers, and I was like 18 to Water Street just sounds cool, doesn't it? I put it in a location. It was exactly 18 minutes from one Water Street to the other.
Nice.
So I was like, all right.
It's like meant to be. The coordinates are right on point.
This is the name.
Yeah.
And so we started writing it, and as time passed by, and we were like, oh, this is the coolest thing ever. But we were missing something, right? Like, and we hadn't started the business yet. We were missing something. And I remember Harry Miller, who played football at Ohio State, and he retired due to mental health issues. He also struggled with suicide. He tried to commit suicide at one point in his life, and it was a hard time for him, right? But he's just he's a brilliant guy, and just loves art. And I just had this feeling in my heart that we should involve him somehow.
Yeah.
And so I talked to Cooper about it, and we called with Harry, and Cooper and Harry had never met, and we were like, hey, do you want to be our Mint Factory and like help us write this film? And he was like, sure, man. And it was funny because like I was talking to Cooper about it, and I was like, you don't even know this guy, which is weird, but I'm telling you, he's the right guy. He was like, all right. So we started writing it, and this is probably like May. So this is the second rendition of the script, because the first one was just dog awful, as they always are.
Yeah.
And
God awful.
I mean, like, look, like it was like that. I wouldn't even show that to myself. Like if I
Like, oh shit.
and so we're going through this process of writing the script, and then I'm like, all right, like I'm talking to people like Lovey Johnson, the filmmaker out in LA, and like some of these connections. Just been so blessed with connections, and getting some industry advice from some people, and they're like, all right, you got to start at the business. If you want to make the film, you got to start at the production company, and then you got to start, another subsidiary LSU underneath the production company, and it's got to be the name, the title of the movie, and you got to do it, and all these different states, and all this stuff. And so, I was like, shit, dude, I just want to make art. I just want to make art.
Yeah.
But we didn't have another choice. Like, this is how we're going to do it. And if we were going to make one, I didn't want it to be a student film.
You want to do it the right way.
There's no way that we were going to make a student film. We care too much about our work. We care too much about doing something that means something, because that was the whole point of starting Mint Factory.
Yeah.
Was there's so much art and work out there in general, whether it's film, TV, whatever, that gets this mainstream attention that isn't necessarily that inspired. Mm-hmm. And that's the beautiful thing about art. I mean, you think about the greatest artists of history, like Da Vinci, okay, or Van Gogh. We'll go Van Gogh. Like Van Gogh at that time was like considered crazy.
Yep.
And at that time, his work wasn't really like appreciated. It was only after his life.
He died poor, didn't he?
Yeah. You know,
That's
like
wild to
just
think
a
about.
just a crazy dude, right? Like, and you think about this art, like art needs time to sit there and make its culture.
Yeah.
Like to make something in the moment, especially like a painting or something like that, is very difficult for it to be like the most popular thing ever. But think about Beethoven. How long has it taken for Beethoven to be like this realm? At that
What he is
time, I'm
now.
sure it was cool, but there was no social media. It was just, you know, like, oh, like this guy's in town. Let me go see him. Oh, that's the coolest thing ever.
Yes.
Or like,
I think it's because a lot of those people are ahead of their time.
for sure. Like and ahead of a time and like thinking, right? Like, because
Right, like it needs time to
those
catch up.
people truly were special.
Right.
Like you think about the times like ancient times, like the Egyptians built the pyramid. Like, wow.
If only they knew their shit's carried on for that, for as long as it has,
a
right?
great one
Yeah.
with Marcus Aurelius, right?
Marcus
Like,
Aurelius, Meditations,
Right.
that book, yeah.
obviously, he was the fucking man then, but now it's like, dude, you figured out everything.
Yeah.
Like you wrote a book that can relate to 2024
makes no sense.
Yeah.
It's insane.
without even thinking of that.
Without
You're
even
just
trying
writing
to.
a book.
Without even trying to. And
Yeah.
a lot of people, when they make a film or whatever, what do they say first? Well, what does your audience want to see? Or you're thinking about this, or you're thinking about that. And like you were saying about making it how you want to make it. That was his fucking personal journal. He's
You got to make stuff for yourself.
he's just writing.
You have to make stuff for yourself.
I was going to say too, I wanted to highlight something you said as well, is talking about moving through a door, that door closing and another one opening, always. And I think that's just such an important thing to focus on, man, because doors are going to close and close and close. And I've realized, like, dude, I've had a lot of doors close. And I'm like, fuck, man. But guess what? You just keep moving, and then boom, there's another door, and you're like, oh shit, like that led to that. And I think a lot of people tend to get past that doorway, and they either see like this long hallway, and they don't see any other doors, and they're just like, they just sit there, and they sit there and wait on the other side of that door, and they're like, just thinking about and dwelling on what's on that door that just closed. So they never even get to the point where they allow that other door to open. And the point is just to keep moving forward. And doors are still going to close, but more are going to keep opening. And it's just going to get bigger and better. You know what I'm saying?
I think that's a great metaphor. You walk into the hallway and you're like, the door's, I think that's
Like, if a door gets kicked in your face and you're only focused on the fact that the door gets kicked in the face, you're going to miss the fact that there's a door literally 3 inches to the right that's wide open.
Yeah.
Right.
Like you're always going to miss that. So if you don't have that mindset, then you're never going to see that door, and you're just going to focus on the fact that a door was kicked in your face, and there was a reason it was kicked in your face. It's because that you weren't supposed to go through that door.
Exactly.
That's not the door you're supposed to go through. So stop looking at it.
Yeah, exactly, dude.
Hey, you got about 10 minutes, so I know you got to ask your questions too, and I know we're kind of at a
Yeah, I want to get
not
to
a great
him
point,
to finish
but
talking about his
But I'll just let you know.
production stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So going through this time, we talked to Harry and we started writing the film. And, we really wanted this film to just be a story about like getting stuck in the rat race of life, right? So there's these moments in life where you sit there and you're like, what am I doing? Like I'm going to a 9-to-5 job. Like it's hard just to get a paycheck, right? And this paycheck, like your entire life was built upon the fact that like it was built upon a lie. And so our main character is a guy named Jim who works on Wall Street, and his entire life was built upon the lies that his father told him. And his father was a financial mogul and all this sort of stuff. He was like, money is success, wealth is success, fame is success. Like you have the biggest, whatever, blah, 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 blah. That's not what Jim wanted.
Yeah.
Jim wanted a fulfilling life.
Purpose.
So this is it's inspired by Christopher Nolan. It's a non-linear story where we take the audience through, its reversal timelines and we kind of tell the story of a man's suicide journey where he goes to the same point on one bridge in New York City and he tries to kill himself every day. And there's another kid named Marcus who lives in Brooklyn. And Marcus is an artist. He likes to draw. He's whatever. He's just kind of floating around in space. Like he just lost his father, and there's a lot of these moments. His father just committed suicide, and it's a tough time. So basically, the story is about how fate can create family. And no matter what you believe that fate is, it's just the fact that like that door needs to open. And you need to realize that there's always another door that's opened. You don't know who's through that door. You don't know what's through that door. And so it's kind of the idea of like, not giving up hope, right?
Yeah.
Like just let that day be another day.
Yeah.
Don't make that day the last day. Don't make that day the first day. Just let that day be another day if it needs to be another day.
Facts.
And so when we were writing this and we need to start the production company in June, I was doing 21 credits of school in the month of June, which is a lot of school. So I'd class from like 9 a.m. to like 8 p.m. Monday through Friday, starting the company, trying to finish up the film because we were going to film it in July. And the writer's strike just happened. So we were like, we're going to take advantage of this. We need, as an independent filmmaker, jump on the street, like jump in the industry as soon as we can while everything's down. If no one else is making something, then why not us?
Yeah.
So, I mean, just the worst nights. I mean, just like reading law books on how to like legally start businesses in the film industry. Like I didn't know anything. And it was so much more daunting than I thought to start a company. But like once you get through it, it's like I thought I was getting arrested. Once I signed the paperwork for the artificial articles of corporation, I was like, oh, I'm getting arrested. Like
Yeah, but there's a lot more red tape than like starting something like I've done. You know?
It's
I
so
felt
much
the exact same way too. I was like, this can't be right.
No, it's so much more, right? And then you get past the administrative stuff. I'm like, okay, now we got to find a cast. So there's this wonderful website called Backstage where we posted like a synopsis on there. We didn't think we were gonna get much out of it, and it was like probably like June, and we were filming in a month, and we only had 2 days to film the movie. It's a 30-minute film. We only had 2 days to film it. We were gonna do New York with no permits and no insurance. It was expensive. We couldn't get it. We didn't know time. There was no other option. And everybody we talked to told us there's no way you can do this. This is impossible. Like you're gonna miss so much stuff. Like, well, we don't have another choice.
And you want to make it perfect.
And we want to make it perfect. So it's hard. Like, but you don't have another choice. You have to do it, right?
Yeah.
And we posted on Backstage, and we went to bed and we woke up the next morning and there was 283 applications for our roles. So
these are bots.
And then that brings a whole new challenge because now you got to go through all those.
And so now I'm learning about hiring. And so now we got to go through and like, we're like, oh crap, like all this sort of stuff. So me, Harry, and Cooper just spending time on like Discord or Zoom or like whatever, like texting, like, oh, this is this guy's link. Like for this character, like we had like a grandmother, we had Marcus, we had Jim, we had 2 homeless guys, and we had 2 police officers that we needed to play in the role. And they were like all over this place. And so we're like, all right, let's focus on the main characters, blah, blah, blah. So then we set up auditions, and then we had to run on auditions rooms in June. And so, we're doing all this stuff. We had to raise money for the company to fund this film. So we're doing all that. And I'm finishing up school, and Cooper and Harry's got work, and we're trying to figure out the logistics side of pre-production, because that's a different monster, right? We're doing everything ourselves because we don't have a choice. I don't know a producer. I don't know if a producer is going to do something for us for our first time doing something, but we know we have to do it. And it's about the brand, right? So we want to make Mint Factory known as like, these are the guys that's going to do it, no matter the circumstances, no matter how much money, no matter what the cost is, art will be made, and it will be made with intention. Yeah. So that's what we did. We set up casting, we found our guys, and it was funny how it worked out, because the SAG-AFTRA, which is the union of the Screen Actors Guild, which is for, all actors in the union that went a part of it, went on strike. But we had a ton of people from the SAG apply for the role. And it ended up being that those weren't the right people for the role. We had non-union people that we wanted for the role. So when we got to filming, the first day of filming was the first day SAG went on strike. So if we would have went with those SAG people, we would have been screwed. We would have had to stop everything.
Good call.
Just one of those moments, right?
Yeah.
Like you're just like I wake up in the morning, it's like 5 a.m. I flew to New York, and as I was on the flights in New York, I met a guy named Dominic. I met a guy named Dominic, who was a violinist, and he is part of the Attico Quartet, which is a Grammy-winning quartet. Just beautiful music, and just one of those moments. And just come back in the future. And I was just like coming to that moment. I'm like, oh, that was cool. Like I just met like a really like awesome dude who just happens to be super good at his craft. I mean, he does his stuff for Moonlight, like the movie, and like all this sort of stuff. Just a beautiful violinist, composer. And I'm like, all right, like this feels like it's meant to be, like no matter what happens. And I'm going up to New York to sleep on a floor of a studio apartment in New York City for 3 weeks. I was sleeping on the floor. Yeah. And I was preparing for that Saturday, which is you're going to film. We film on 2 Saturdays. And I went there a week early to get, known for the city. We did walkthroughs with our cast that was there. And, we filmed all BTS of this stuff. So we're going to make a documentary of it, because we were like, if you told us we're not going to make it, we're going to hire another person to show you how we made it. And then it comes to the morning of filming. The actors just went on strike, and we're like, shit, this is perfect. Like, let's go kill this day.
Oh yeah.
It's almost like how we were talking earlier. You were almost guided away from football, even though it was such a big part of your life. It's almost like you were guided to this.
Everything to this moment,
Yeah.
right? Like everything to this moment. And I'd been dreaming this moment for a long time. And the first scene when we were directing, because we had like a 8-person cast and crew at most, but it was me and Cooper and Harry. We were directing and shooting. We had like one boom guy, and we were doing everything else. And my girlfriend was there helping us out, like being really helpful. And we had like a PA that was filming the BTS. 16 hours go by. First day's done. I'm like, oh, that was just such a relief. But I was like, I can't wait to go do this again next week. Mm-hmm. Fast forward, Harry comes into town. We're doing it again next week. We're on the subway. Our main character is supposed to be, doing this monologue on the subway. It's basically his verbal suicide note.
Yeah.
And we needed one train to be clear. Because we're in New York City on a Saturday. It shouldn't be too bad.
Yeah.
We're like 7 a.m., but it's New York City, right? Like there's millions, there's thousands, hundreds of thousands of people there.
Yeah.
And we're asking to film a movie scene in there with no permits and nothing. We're just walking around like freeballing it, like full guerrilla style. How are we going to do this? Dude, we waited like an hour. We lucked out, got on a subway. We took the wrong route. Mid-scene, like mid-filming, we ended up being outside. We were all the way in, like we were just like 30 minutes away from where we needed to be in Brooklyn, like in the sunlight. We're like, oh shit. We have scenes to film. We have comedians coming up from Philadelphia just to play these cops. Like we have to go pick them up from like the Amtrak, and like we have to get these scenes on roll. Like we have 3 people coming up from Philly to play these actors. Like we have to go.
Yeah.
And just all of a sudden, I remember sitting outside like in this train track just praying. I was like, just like, please come. Boom. Right after the prayer. Train comes by. Perfect train. 4 takes. Done. Out of the subway. Finally done. Move on to the next scene. Next scene. Next scene. Next scene. Next scene. Next scene.
You start knocking them out of
All of a sudden we're done. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, every single, like I was with Harry and Cooper, and I remember talking to Harry, like we were sitting on the subway on the way back. It was like late at night. And I was like, we looked at each other and we were just like emotional. We were like, man, we thought football was cool. Like this is what we were meant to do.
Yeah.
Like this is what's cool. It's doing what you love and doing what you're meant to do. These doors that opened with this film, that's where I knew it was right. Because there was nights where I was like getting attacked by demons, dude. Like I had shit like over my face, like snarling over my face. Like I had like saliva on my face.
So you're talking about the sleep paralysis thing?
That was one of them. But like I had like saliva on my face, like a demon staring over, like growling at me. And I'm just sitting there like,
Put the headphones back on.
Demon was growling.
yeah, like some of these times, like this night, like creating the film, like there was like nights where I was like sitting there sleeping, and like I just remember like waking up, like hearing something, like waking up, and I just see something over my face, and I just see like a growl, like jaws like wide open, and I just feel water on my face, like spit or like growl, and I remember like going to touch my face, but it wasn't wet, it was dry, and I just remember like knowing at that moment like. I just profess like leave, like you don't, like this isn't your space. Like I know you being here means that what I'm doing is what I'm supposed to be doing. So go.
Yeah.
Like this is the moment to do something.
Yeah.
And so like that really carried us on throughout this process of like, we need to make something no matter the cost, because this is a story that needs to be told. It's a bold perspective on suicide. It's not like the craziest Hollywood ending, because we're not Hollywood. We're just 3 guys that just love making stuff.
Yeah.
And so we finished filming this film, and it's like so inspiring and all this sort of stuff. And then you move on, and you have like, now we have to edit. And like the edit is 90% of the film. Like you can write stuff, but if you don't, like if it doesn't fit in the edit, it's not going in the film. So we had all these sort of goals, right? We had like, we're going to have it finished by here. We're going to have this guy do this guy do that. We hired a composer. We had like a agreement in from June on, and like we have 670 takes. We were like, holy shit, we don't need to do a reshoot. We got it all done in 2 days. Now we have to make the movie.
Yeah.
Those 2 days were nothing compared to the edit.
Dude, tell them and say it again, and then say it for the people in the back.
I mean, like instrumental. Like you have to spend like 900 time fold in the edit over than making the film. At least for this one.
Even in documentary style stuff, it's not even close.
It's not even close. And like, this is our first time doing a narrative. Like we're trying to make this look like a real movie. We're going to do it right.
Yeah.
We're going to do it right. But we started to realize like these goals that we set for ourselves are unreasonable. Unreasonable. You cannot rush art. In my opinion, you cannot rush art. Art needs to live its lifespan.
Yeah.
It needs to grow. It needs to grow, even in writing, even in anything that you do. Rushing something where it's not something that deserves to be rushed, because there's something that deserves to be rushed. You have to get a goal, like it's an attainable goal, like, oh, like you put it off, whatever. That's fine. Like rush that, go get that done. But when it comes to something like this impactful and this meaningful to your life and art and whatever, like let it breathe, because you need to breathe too.
I'll tell you what, and I had someone tell me, business guy, he was like, you need fast growth, I know you want organic, you need fast growth, but that takes away, like, to me, yeah, this is different than making a movie, but like, essentially, like, I do this because I love it. I get to be creative, and it's a form of art to me, like building RP. So, but organic is the long term. Or when it's organic, it's actually truly valuable and sustainable.
Right.
And like fast growth is just going to come and go. So in a way, I can see, like, I can relate to that in my own way with this. Like, I want it to grow at the pace it needs to, because I want it to last, forever.
Yeah, and there's a beautiful little, I can't remember who wrote it, but they wrote someone a letter one time. It might have been Mark Twain. I might be wrong. It said, I would have wrote a shorter letter, but I didn't have the time. Like, I mean, just to take a second and breathe, like let that come in. Like, I would have wrote a shorter letter, but I didn't have the time. That shorter letter takes time.
Yeah.
To make something is
You know about the marble sculptors and stuff? I can't remember which guy. We were talking about Van Gogh and all the people are there. I can't remember. It may have been Van Gogh, but how he talked about how he would sculpt. And this is an important moment about art that you're describing right here that is really hard to explain. But Jordan Peterson in his book described how he made, how he sculpted it. And the guy said, I wish I could remember who it was, but he said that you take a big block of marble. He said, I'm not creating, I'm removing.
Yeah.
I'm chipping away at the block of marble to reveal to the world what I already see.
Yeah. And that's kind of life, right? Like you got to remove stuff that's not going to push you forward, and it takes time to recognize what needs to be removed.
Yep.
Like, you can't force what needs to be removed.
Yeah.
So like, I think that's the hardest part, like refining something.
Yeah.
Like, it takes a long time to refine a mineral. Yeah, sure. There's chemical processes that have been developed over time to create a more efficient and, chemical, like, raw material extraction. But what product has that created? A less quality product.
We were talking about getting engaged and stuff. We got the lab grown diamonds and stuff versus like regular ones. And just went through that process, and like they're bigger but they're not.
No, they're not quality, right?
You can see that.
Like the time wasn't taken. So, we're in this just edit, and we're like, okay, let's take a second to breathe. We got to figure this out. Like, what's the rush, right? Yeah. Like, I hadn't even graduated college. Harry hasn't graduated college. Like, there's no rush on this, right? Like, if this means so much to us, then let's let it breathe.
Yeah.
Let's create something that we're really, because at the end of the day, if we make this and we're not ready to show it to somebody, we're not going to.
Yeah.
So let's at least like work efficiently to get to the point where we're ready to show it to people. So, we push it back a little bit, take a little breath. Like, we take a break. Like, I remember coming home and like sleeping for like a month, dude. Like, my brain was so fried. I had no clue what was going on. I just had to chill.
You put it all in and then those few weeks.
I've never experienced anything like that.
Yeah.
Like,
You left it all on the field, baby.
Yeah, I guess so. And like, I'd never experienced anything like that. So we just like slept and just took a second to breathe. Like, we didn't talk about it. And we talked about certain things, whatever, like, ideas and, brainstorming, but that's normal. Like, that's not necessarily like taxing. And then it was like, all right, it's time. Like, we need to put a trailer out. So now we're making a trailer. We're putting on this trailer. We had this agreement with this composer, and just wasn't really responding. It had been a while. We had this agreement since June. We're talking about October now. Wasn't really responding to us. And so we were like, crap, what's going on? We had budgeted this whole thing. Like, there was a whole plan going on.
What is this person supposed to be doing for you?
Composing our short film in our trailer. Like score.
It? Like
a musical score.
We're doing the music for it. Gotcha.
And it was like a week before we wanted to put the trailer out. We had everything done. We met our deadline. We were like, we're going to send you the trailer here at this date. I think it was like October 7th. How's that sound? For like 2 months. We finished it. Send it October 7th. Nothing back. We had an NDA signed and everything, so it wasn't like worried about like taking our, whatever. Finally got back to us and like, hey, we can't do it. It's like, oh crap.
Damn it, guys! You could have told me sooner.
Oh man, like I told you 2 months ago.
Yeah.
You couldn't have done it like 3 weeks ago. That would have been nice at least. Like,
Yeah.
So I just remember back to a moment. I was like, all right, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? We started like looking around. Like we had connections and all this sort of stuff. And I was like, let me call Dominic, who's the guy I met on the flight to New York City to film that movie. I texted him like, hey man, we're in a shitty scenario. Like we are backed up against the wall and like, we don't know what to do. We need a composer. He's like, oh, I'm in the airport. Let me call you. Calls me immediately. And I'm sitting here like, I mean, I'm so blessed to like know this guy. And like, I'm so blessed to like be able to like talk to somebody like this who's going to know somebody.
Yeah.
And he was like, I got the perfect guy for you. His name's Alex Grimes. He's out in Seattle. All right, sweet. Let's set up a call. Met with him 2 days later. Perfect. There was nobody else meant for this job to compose the score for this film than Alex Grimes. Just a fantastic, I mean, like everything from the moment we talked and the moment we met, he looked at us and he said, this is what my passion is composing films like this. This makes my job easy because this is the type of music I want to score. Because there's so many different aspects of scoring. There's technical scoring. There's like, I mean, like I can't even go into it because I'm still new in the industry, but like there's digital scoring. There's different types of musical components and like all this sort of stuff. And it was like, okay, cool. Like you're into this. Like this is perfect. So we get the trailer out, all this sort of stuff, get some really good attention, you know. We're all pumped about it and we're like, oh, sweet. Like, what are we going to do? And they're like, we haven't made the movie yet, so we can't get too cocky and like, like take another step, take another breath. We got to finish the movie. And we had this whole plan for the movie to be this and that and that and that. And it didn't turn out like that, but it turned out better. That's how it's supposed to turn out because we let it breathe. We let the time develop. If there was a day where I woke up and I was like, I literally like, if I touch this film, I'm going to mess it up. I can't do that though.
Yeah.
I put too much effort into this to wake up that morning and go, I'm going to force myself to do something that won't help the end goal.
Of course.
So I take care of myself. We go work out. We do other stuff that needs to be done. Like you need to prepare for that. Like if you're going to sit down and edit, you're going to sit down and write, like go get your stuff done in the morning and plan for that ahead of time. Like don't wake up the next day and think like I have a responsibility to make this happen immediately, even though I don't feel ready to do that, then don't do that. Yeah. So we had to go through that process and, we ended up going through the edit and there was a point in time, it was Thanksgiving week and I had off school and Cooper was working and we were like, all right, like we told our post-production people, so our colorist, Vinny Garcia and, our composer, Alex Grimes and our sound guy. And we were like, all right, we're going to have the film done, our cut of the film. So that's just going to be an uncolored, unscored, unsound design cut of the film. And that's for, us to help direct you guys through and like greenlight the processes back and forth. And that's what's going to make the film. Cause the edit's really big, but, sound and color and all the aspects that make an experience for a viewer. And so we were like, okay, it's the 28th. I think Thanksgiving was the 27th. It was the 29th or something like that. And it was, Saturday night after Thanksgiving. I mean, dude, me and Cooper spent 12 hours a day for like 9 straight days, just continuously like beating ourselves to death over editing it. But I know I talked about not forcing yourselves. This wasn't forced. This was perfect harmony.
Flow state.
This was full flow state for 9 days. So we got it done in 9 days.
Yeah, it didn't feel forced.
It didn't feel forced at all.
You were just rolling with it.
There was moments, you go to sleep, you wake up, bam, I'm excited. I'm
Well,
going
it's
to go
the
work
opposite of what you're talking about. Before you wake up and you're like, I could force myself. It's the opposite of that. It's just coming out. It's just going. Like a stream of consciousness.
When it's that moment, you have to let it out.
You can feel it. You can feel whether or not you're forcing it to. Right. You know what I'm saying?
And then that's part of like learning yourself, right? Mm-hmm. Like that's part of those things we talked about, like removing things from yourself that you don't necessarily need helps you get to that point where you can understand, okay, here, now I can kind of feel myself like these small little intricacies. Like I did this yesterday, like that kind of affected me here. Like I did this, you talk about mental health and like all these sort of aspects of taking care of yourself. You have to train that, right? Like this isn't something that's like an innate ability that you're born with. Like, oh, this person's like has better resilience than another person because of a gene trait. Yeah. No, like that person went through some shit. Like that person had to go through that. Like you've gone through stuff. You've come to this point today. Like you've grinded and you've gotten to the point today where you have a daughter, you have a wife, like you have a family ahead of you, you have passion in front of you, you have a vision for your life. Like you had to get there. Yeah. But where you are today, you told yourself 15 years ago, Matthew McConaughey has a great quote, like my goal is to always improve 10 years, like impress the person 10 years behind me. You'll never get that though.
Dude, it's crazy to think about that too. I've talked about like where I was 10 years ago, man. It's fucking blows my mind. Just, yeah, I can't even comprehend what that person would see. You know what I'm saying? It's just such a massive transformation, but it's been beautiful as well.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I totally get that.
And it's those struggles that looking back, you're like, if you can appreciate the hardest moments of your life, like it's so much easier.
Dude. Yes.
Like if you can really just like smile about some pain and like laugh about it, some really hard stuff, you know, you gotta have a process. You gotta let that go through, right? You gotta let it out. You gotta cry it out. You gotta, you know, let those emotions go through. But if you can look back at that time in life and smile on it and be like, I'm here today, probably maybe because of that.
Oh, without a doubt.
Like that is pure serenity.
There's a book I'm just started reading by Ryan Holiday. It's called The Obstacle is the Way.
Yeah, dude, I got that book
right over there.
Jesus.
Right, I'm so excited about it. I'm gonna throw my pen.
I got that book from my brother for Christmas last year.
I just came across it and I was like, I saw a quote from it that was related to this Aragorn thing, and I was like, oh, cool. And I had put it in the Amazon cart, and
Was it like Stoicism or whatever?
yeah, and Lydia ordered it, and I was like, oh shit, okay. And then, dude, just the title of that, The Obstacle is the Way, and that's the whole point. Like, the path is the challenge. Like, that's all the journey, man. And like, that's what I look forward to. You know what I'm saying? You almost like look forward to some kind of adversity, because that's only going to make everything better in the end.
Yeah.
You know, and it's to be able to look back on challenge and struggle after, and all you've overcome after you've gotten to a certain level. I mean, that's where all the value lies. You know, like,
Every time.
trust me, I'd love a fucking $10 million invested in my business today. But guess what? At the same time, I don't want that. Like, because I want to earn that shit. I want to look back and be like, damn, man, it took me busting my balls, not just a handout to get there. And that wouldn't make it, that wouldn't mean anything. You know, what would that teach me? What would that teach my daughter? What would that teach my family or everybody around me? You know what I'm saying? So
Success unearned is not appreciated.
yeah, so that's a fact, man.
It's a grinding experience of just continuously beating against a tree that will finally chop one day. And when that tree does chop, you know to chop the next one. It's you have to train these parts of your life. You have to realize these parts of your life. You have to go through these parts of your life. Escaping something is to avoid a future success, in my opinion.
Yeah. And also how you said, like, but also eliminating those things about yourself which hold you back, right? And I was just talking to Shona about this and talked about it. I think maybe Elias, but you know, I do a ritual every week, you know, and I do some cuts on my arm, and you know, I'm at my altar, but to me, like, blood is the oldest thing. Like, it's traced back to my very first ancestor. It's very holy. And when I do this, you know, I pray to the gods, I pray to God, and I essentially am like, this is my sacrifice in order to bring life, but also rid myself of what's holding me back. And I'm like, what can I do? What can I eliminate from me now? I know there's something that is not helping me get to the next level or reach my max potential, and I want to bleed that out. It's a symbolism, right? To me, it's very powerful. And like, I woke up this morning just like fucking on fire, because I had a course of events after that really made it like, oh, I was seen, you know, like that was answered, you know, and it was just this crazy realization. But you have to be intentional about ridding yourself of those things in your life, and even people, you know, like I just wrote about this yesterday. Like, the universe is going to get rid of the people. When you're on the right path, people are going to go. And rather than worrying about that, be like, hey, those people don't resonate with my path. They're just going to hold me back from getting to where I need to be. So good riddance, you know what I'm saying? And that was a hard thing for me to accept as well. But yeah, it's all about having intention and understanding of those things as well.
Yeah, and all those moments are like what carries you through, like times where you don't really know what's going to go. Because like, yes, I woke up one day and I was editing and I was like, this is awful. Like I see no other way than you take a 10-minute walk outside, 30-minute walk outside. All right, I got it.
Yeah.
Each time you do that, each time you have a total freak out, total like anxiety attack, and you take a second to breathe, you're like, that wasn't so bad.
Yeah.
That wasn't so hard. I know where to go now.
Exactly. But I do want to say, you know, since we are getting crunched down on time, I know you got a little bit more about that process. We're here like around Thanksgiving time.
Yeah, we're here around Thanksgiving time, you know, going through, we get to edit out. Colorado's doing a great job. You know, he's just an unbelievable person that we met from, you know, Brazil online. And it's beautiful to meet these people through these experiences. Like online, it's connected so much. Like he had like 40,000 subscribers on Instagram when I DM'd him. And I didn't know if he was going to respond, but I took a chance. And yeah, man, like, let's meet. Vinny's just a really happy guy, like really great guy. And we met and we talked about, like, he was like, I just, I want to work on this. Like, it's about like the project, right? And like it fit in our budget and like really helped us out. And like, that's how you want to work with somebody.
Yeah.
So to say our team has just been unbelievable. The ones that have stuck with us, like you're saying, like time really weeds out the people that you don't want to be with. So, we're going through this, the color's going done, all this sort of processes. And then like, there was a point in time where like another thing happened. Our sound guy, just kind of, had some stuff happen, kind of had, no hurt, no blame, like nothing like that. Like stuff happens in life, it's for us, like, a little freak out, like, okay, we're not hitting our deadline again.
Yeah. Got to find a sound guy.
I'm on Upwork, I'm on Fiverr, I'm on all these, texting, reaching out, getting all this sort of stuff, setting up interviews. And then, you find your guy. And I'm freaking out like, holy crap, 6 days is going to ruin and I'm like, now I'm like, no, it wasn't.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't. It was just going to show you the right person.
Of course.
And I think as we all go through this thing, and like the biggest thing for us to remember is like the reason we started this company is to make things that we love. Yeah. And take just a deep breath for a second and realize like you're doing something you love, because it's easy to forget what you're doing even if you love it, because of all those other stuff outside it, like all the other stuff outside of you let all these things come in and like bark in your ear and like distract you from what you're doing. But if you just take a second each morning, each night, whenever you feel right, to ground yourself again in the moments that you're doing it, like just to remember, like, this is what I love, so this is what I'm going to do. Yeah. And stuff will happen, but guess what? I'm doing something I love. Yes. And I'm blessed to be able to do that. And that's the goal. The goal is to be able to do something you love, provide for your family, live the life that you want to live, not having controlled by anything else, and not, just live the life that you want to live, and do what do what you set out to do. Set goals for yourself. Go through adversity. Build on your successes. Build on your failures. Like fail, just so you can win. Yeah. Fail, just so you can learn.
Amen to that, dude. So 10 fails for every win. Sometimes more than that. Yeah. Totally get that shit.
Before you ask your questions, I've been holding this for a while. I just want to say it before we leave. Earlier on, when we were talking about obviously that moment that you were in, I think this is important because we've had a couple people that have gone through this, and they share almost verbatim, one word in particular. But you were talking about all the pressure and stuff that you felt. And the first time when we were talking about it, it didn't really come up. But then the second time it did come up, which is the word alone. So Cassie's episode, I titled You Are Not Alone, right? Because whenever she was described, she did talk about feeling like she was possessed in that moment when she did it. But her overwhelming feeling in that moment, her overwhelming emotion was complete loneliness, being completely alone. And that is a very similar story to a lot of people that get to that point, is that they feel alone. And so it's very important, I think, to bring that up whenever you find somebody who's been right there. It's like, well, why? What really made you decide? It's like, because I felt alone. I felt so alone. And that's what, regardless of the situation, I mean, Cassie wasn't a D1 football player, and like completely opposite situations, but it still somehow comes back to that just overwhelming feeling of loneliness. And so I think it's an important point to point out, because if you're listening, and obviously us three just sit here in person, but you're not.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, yes, I felt alone for sure, but I also felt misled by myself. Yeah. Like looking back on it, like if you're in that moment and you feel alone, like in 5 years, you will look back on that moment and feel misled. Yeah. Not by anybody else, but by yourself. Yeah. Because it's almost laughable to sit there and think that your life wasn't worth it. Right. And suicide it's a hard topic, because you're taking your own life, and people love you. Yeah. People do love you. You just got to find out how to love yourself. You just got to find out how to love yourself through everything.
Man, that's what Cassie said.
And not to interrupt, but it's wild to think that, like, doesn't matter. Like I said, like he said, you and Cassie had totally different lives and paths and all these things, right? And if you think about it, all across the board, everybody that's ever faced that situation, in that moment in their life, they felt exactly the same, no matter their background or their upbringing or how many friends they had or what their opportunity was. Like at that moment, they felt exactly the same as the person with a completely different life than them. And that's pretty wild. It is. Because at the end of the day, we all are born and we all die, and those are two things that everybody has in common, unless you're a vampire from Hollywood. And you don't get me started on that. Where's Alex Jones?
oh boy.
No, but anyways, I had to throw that out there. But what I'm getting at is everybody shares those same things. And then, somewhere in the middle, a lot of people face this reality of like cutting it short soon and like feeling that exact same way. And I don't really understand it. It's just wild to me to think that, man,
Well, and that's what I'm saying. There's a thorough line there.
You may have nothing in common, but at the end of the day, you do right there.
Well, that just shows how important people are.
Exactly.
Like, that just shows how important, like, to be on an earth and then that's why it's like so sad. Like my mom likes to say this all the time, and it's something I just love. Our differences make us stronger. You like recognize, like, don't hate somebody, like love because that person may be the person that makes you not feel alone.
Right.
Yeah.
You may be the person that could make that person not feel alone.
Exactly.
And one of Jordan Peterson's favorite quotes, you were talking about people loving you, about suicide. He says, he's crying in the interview when he says this. And he says, never underestimate the hole that you will leave behind if you take your own life.
It's big.
That's a fact.
Never underestimate. While he's crying, he said, dude, it hits.
Yeah.
It hits. Like, imagine all the people you would devastate forever.
Yeah.
The hole that you would leave is just a black hole of just gravity. Like, you can't, there's no.
Yeah, no, that's pretty insane to think about. And, so obviously on the back end of that, you're left with that thought, like, damn, you can actually imagine that, and it's like you said, like, yeah, that's the whole thing is like uplifting humanity. Like, don't get me wrong. There's things that people do that humanity does that I hate.
Sure.
There's things I do hate. One, because that hatred for that thing helps me focus on what I love more. But I don't hate somebody because they are maybe this different than me.
Right.
I feel compassion for them, but I don't hate them for it. But you don't get anything from, like, I don't know, treating others like shit or like, forcing them to be your way, man. I don't know. We can make a huge difference. We can talk about this all day.
That's a long time.
Damn it, man.
Yeah, we got like 5 minutes. You guys
like a whole pot. Yeah, I know.
But this is a positive. This will be a positive. I mean, I wanted to say those things, but this will be a positive.
Fuck, man. I know. I get all like on the time crunch, stupid cameras and time. And
I mean, dude, we're over 2 hours, so
yeah, I know.
It's a
crazy.
Fantastic episode.
Damn it, Jake. Anyways, thanks for coming on and having such a good podcast. I do have a question for you, but is there anything else you want to finish with?
I just want to say that there's been a lot of times in my life where I've felt blessed, but no more than the time right now, because this is the time I get to be in. So thank you guys for having me on this podcast. It means a lot.
Oh yeah.
And, if you want to support us, like it would truly mean a lot, because I can tell you one thing. There will never be anybody that outworks me. And there will never be anybody that cares more than me. And there will never be anybody that tries to make something more meaningful than Mint Factory. So we're young, we're small. Yes, that's fine. We're looking to do some really big things in a very different way.
Facts.
In a very different way, because that's what the world needs.
Yep.
The world needs more just like let it loose, like make something just
Authenticity.
awesome. Yeah, we just need to be more authentic. We just need to really show more of the world.
Authenticity is key.
My boy just gave the Tim Tebow speech.
And
you have never seen anybody. That was.
You know what? And I tell you what, and you say that with that, I got to say that about this podcast. Is this going to be one of the most real, authentic podcasts that you'll ever come across? Because it's real people with real fucking stories sharing real life.
Yeah.
And you don't see that. I mean, that's not as common. There's some value out there for sure, but like everybody that comes on here, like everyday people can fucking relate to these things in some way. And so you're going to get authenticity here. And like, I don't know, you finish with that. And I find that to be like,
and we appreciate that, by the way.
Key tenet. Yeah. Authenticity is the fucking key, man. And so, dude, Jake, keep doing what you do. Stay authentic. And I got to ask you, what is your relentless pursuit?
The future.
The future.
Like, as much as I've talked about the fact that you can only enjoy the present, like enjoy the time, like this is the moment that you're in. So enjoy this moment, but just keep striving for that future. I mean, like that's it, right? Like, do something that makes you want to wake up tomorrow. It makes you want to go to bed. That's even more, like, do something that makes you want to go to bed so you can wake up.
So you can get to tomorrow.
Yeah. Not even that you're just waking up. Like, so just go chase that. Like, I mean, there's so many people out there whose stories are, worse than yours or not worse, whatever. It doesn't matter. Go make something of your life. Don't ever think that there's a moment that you're stuck. Don't ever think that there's a time that you can't get through, that there's an issue that can't be resolved. Just make that happen. Take a deep breath. Go take control of your life and move it forward. Like that's it. That's all it is.
Yes.
By the way, can we just take a moment to say the guy who couldn't see the future at one point, that's his overall pursuit now.
Yes.
The future.
You know what I mean? You were in a moment where you couldn't see the future at one point, and now you should be proud of that.
Yeah, man.
All right, everybody.
Well, hey.
I'm going to do the thing. I'm going to be the bad guy. We got to go.
What I got to say is, though, like, real quick, Jake, thank you for being here, man. I'm excited to see your journey. I'm excited to know you and have you be a part of your life, my man, and I think you're going to go really far. So we're looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, man.
Oh, yeah, man.
See you guys next time.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.